May I request everybody to please be seated. We'll be starting in 5 minutes. A very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to the Global AI Summit spearheaded by IESA. IESA stands for India Electronics and Semiconductor Association. I'm Rama Chaganti, Senior Manager at AMD. I'll be your host for today. And I am working in Xilinx AMD and been responsible for the delivery of IP solutions for FPGAs and SoC designs. IESA is spearheading India's semiconductor and electronics manufacturing industry growth by fostering local and global collaborations, partnerships across companies, upskilling and supporting startups, MSMEs, and academia. Objective of this summit here is to share insights about how AI is driving the global hardware and software ecosystem. AI is everywhere around us today. We welcome you to the summit to witness the powerful convergence of breakthrough technologies like the IoT and AI, igniting a renaissance in the electronics landscape. We'll now begin by starting to invite our dignitaries on the stage. May I request our chief guest, Shri Jayesh Ranjan Ji, Principal Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Electronics and Communication, and Departments of Industry and Commerce of Government of Telangana to join us on the stage. Request the sound engineering to please provide some nice vibrant music. May I request our guest of honor, Shri Anshuman Tripathi Ji, Member, National Security Advisory Board, National Security Council Secretariat, to join us on the stage. I would now like to invite our esteemed guest, Mr. Srinivas Chari, Lead Solution Architect, Dell Technologies, onto the stage. I would like to invite Mr. Krishnamurthy, CEO and President, India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, and a veteran in the industry, onto the stage. I'd now like to request Mr. Shashi Reddy, Vice President, Qualcomm, and Chairman of IESA Hyderabad Chapter, to please come up onto the stage. And lastly, but not the least, I'd like to invite Mr. Venkata Simhadri, Founding Partner and Board Member, ASEP Technologies, and the brainchild behind this AI Summit being hosted at Hyderabad today, to join us on the stage. Can we get a louder applause, please? More energy. Thank you for that. I'd like to request Mr. Venkata Simhadri to address the summit and kick off with a welcome address. Mr. Venkata Sudhakar Simhadri is a serial entrepreneur and a proven executive in the semiconductor industry. He's currently the founder and director of ASEP Technologies, chairman of IESA Semiconductor Manufacturing Core Interest Group, Vice Chairman of the IESA Hyderabad chapter and the brains behind the IESA AI Summit today, and was most recently the General Chair for the recent blockbuster VLSI Design and Embedded Systems Conference in Jan 2023. Venkata has over 30 plus years of experience spanning across multiple geographies, and he is a veteran in the semiconductor industry and founded and formed many companies. Time to Market was one of them from 98 to 2012 that he was the founder, and that was acquired by Cyient, and he was the head of high-tech business segment there. From 2012 to 2017, he was the MD and CEO of Moschip until most recently, and that's a publicly traded semiconductor company. 2017 onwards, he's formed the Moschip, continuing heading Moschip, and now he's the chair at ASIP Technologies and the chairman for the IESA Semiconductor Manufacturing Group. Now let's request Mr. Venkata Simhadri to address the delegates and the summit and kick off the summit.
Thank you, Ramaji, for the kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AI Summit 3.0. I will give you a little bit history behind this AI Summit. This is during the COVID time, and I just became part of IESA. And we were kind of trying to do something different in Hyderabad. And the previous year, actually the same year, Telangana government declared, I think this is 2020 or 21, the year of AI at Telangana. So it was a nice coincidence. I said, let's do something focused on AI. And the reason, see, AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, it has been a research topic for probably more than 50 years. But the last 2 decades, AI started finding real applications in both in the industry, in our day-to-day lives. I think these applications are enabled mainly because of the advances in the semiconductor industry. The chips have become more and more powerful. They are able to compute a lot of data on a real time. And so some of these chips, they come up with special architectures focused on only AI applications. So I think these are some of the things, and also the software also made tremendous progress. And companies like NVIDIA, they created special dedicated software platforms to develop AI applications. So if you look at it, last 5 to 10 years, more than 100 chip startups, actually last 5 years itself, they raised billions of dollars just for AI startup companies. And in fact, some of them got even acquired already by good valuations. And similarly, the number of AI startup companies, they are like exploding. So I feel India can play a humongous role, especially on the software side, focused on AI platforms and applications. And that is one of the reasons we really, I went and picked up this topic and started this AI Summit 3 years ago. The first year, naturally, it was COVID time. We had to do it, on the web. But the last year also it was online. But this is the first time we are actually doing it live. And it brings me immense pleasure. The great team I had behind with us, they put in a lot of effort to make this happen. Give them a big round of applause. So again, keeping in view of the growth opportunities and challenges in this emerging field, I felt IESA chapter, Hyderabad chapter should focus on this area. And we will continue to do this. This will become an annual event in Hyderabad, and I hope to see this event grow and grow bigger and make it like a world-renowned event in this particular field. So today we have some industry experts, some of the best in the industry, and professionals talking about the role of semiconductors and hardware applications. And also we have people from academia and R&D In addition, we have some very interesting panel discussions. So please take your seat and get ready for listening to the people, some of the best people in the industry. With that, I thank you and hand it over back to Ramaji. Please, let's continue with the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Venkataji. Now we will begin with lamp lighting. I'd like to request the volunteers to please be ready with the lamp lighting arrangements. It symbolizes knowledge, prosperity, and is the harbinger of positivity. It is our tradition to begin all the occasions with the lamp lighting. It denotes auspiciousness and positivity. I request the dignitaries on the stage to please do the honors. I'd now like to request Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji to officially kick off the AI Summit launch video. Exciting video, right? One more round of applause for all the team who put together this wonderful video for us. Now we'll begin welcome addresses by the dignitaries. And I'd like to request Mr. Shashi Reddy, Vice President Qualcomm and Chairman of IESA Hyderabad Chapter, to deliver the welcome address. Mr. Shashi Reddy has 30 plus years of experience in wireless and embedded software industry and has worked in companies like Qualcomm, Skyworks, Northern Telecom, Sony, Intel in US and India. He is currently heading Qualcomm Hyderabad Design Center, responsible for the embedded wireless products. Mr. Shashi was instrumental in setting up the India Design Center for Skyworks Solutions and later for Qualcomm in Hyderabad. He helped start the Qualcomm Hyderabad Center in 2004 and grew it close to 5,000 plus engineering operations team working on development, validation of wireless platforms which power the mobile, tablets and other wireless and connectivity devices. Let's now welcome Mr. Shashi Reddy to kick off and welcome the AI Summit.
Thank you, ma'am, for the intro. Good morning everyone. I would like to warmly welcome each one of you to the AI Summit. As Venkata had said, there's a lot of sweat and efforts being put in the last a few weeks to put it all together. And it's great to see a lot of dignitaries coming here as well, Jayesh Garu and other dignitaries on the stage. A very warm welcome. This is, this idea of creating AI, I think like what Venkata said, we had a discussion about 3 years back. But I think from year to year, this definitely has gained a lot of traction. And if you look at the industry, there's a lot more happening in that area as well. As you see, I think most of the AI last few years back would be looked at as being done more on the cloud-centric AI. I think that has been kind of challenged, or definitely it's moving. I mean, I would say more and more of it will happen. I think it's moving from a cloud-centric to more a hybrid AI, more AI processing on the edge or on device AI. I think that's kind of a trend that is happening, and many companies which are in semiconductor definitely will be able to take advantage, not just semiconductor, the software, the other ecosystem around that, those companies can really take advantage. The algorithmic developers, lots of things could really happen. So the AI has definitely kind of not just being a cloud-centric, but more moving towards the device will also kind of really look at a lot more opportunities. I mean, not just AI, but even the generative AI, we have been looking at kind of moving more towards the device. So moving towards on-device AI or hybrid model has lots of advantages. I mean, like you can have more personalization, more efficient, more more available, and also a lot of security compared to what we see on the cloud AI. I agree. There are some limitations as well. There are the size of models which we could run on, but that's kind of changing as we see. There are more and more of computely intensive AI models are being kind of moved towards the edge. So I think that's kind of we see the trend. I think that's what we see. It's not just a software thing anymore. It's a lot more hardware, software, and algorithmic fine-tuning and making it more efficient really makes a way towards the future of the distributed AI processing is what we kind of look at. I would definitely suggest you to look at some of our booths, but definitely talking about Qualcomm, we are big on the edge AI and on-device AI. There are few things in our demo booth, which kind of gives you a flavor of what we are able to do. There is one generative generative images from text, which is which kind of needs a lot of processing. We are looking at less than a second with very low power requirements. Less than a second, we can run it on the device. So there are certain things that are happening. Recently, we have announced a couple of things for our Snapdragon processors for both our smartphones as well as our compute platforms, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 as well as Snapdragon X Elite platforms, which have more and more AI, which includes the CPU, the GPU, and the more faster NPU processors there, which can run a lot more on the device. So we are looking at running 10 billion parameters like Llama on these platforms. We are looking at quite a bit of productivity tools from working with Microsoft. So there's a lot of work with Microsoft, Meta, and other areas where we can optimize these, not just the hardware, but also how we run the overall aspects with it. So I think what I see is a huge trend. I think for the scale, for whatever we are looking at, I think the next big thing I could see is more and more of it going towards this hybrid stuff. So I think it's not just, right now what we are doing is only the inference aspects being done on device, but I think in the future you'll see a lot more learning happening, maybe a lifelong learning happening on these devices by using these AI models. I think it's an interesting time, and it's really exciting. I think when you see all these demos and all the companies around, both the silicon companies doing a lot of work around AI, I think you'll definitely get an idea, and I hope it will also increase your interest in what's going on in these areas as well. So with that, I would like you all kind of spend a good time here, listen to all these panel discussions, a lot of other keynote speakers, as well as the demos which we have in these booths. So please do look around and spend some time here. And thanks again for coming down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shashi Reddy, for the warm welcome. May I now request our esteemed guest, Mr. Srinivasachari, Lead Solutions Architect at Dell Technologies, to address the delegates. Mr. Srinivasachari has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, spanning across enterprise architectures, data center design, and optimizations, with experience spanning multiple geographies and various market segments and workloads on adoption of technologies including HPC, data analytics, and AI. Please give a round of applause to Mr. Srinivasachari and welcome him to address delegates.
Hey, good morning, everybody. What a wonderful audience, it brings a very beautiful culmination or actually a start of technocrats working around silicon. There are people who have met, who are working around software, and then of course there is data which all three of them come together to create magic. This is at the hardware layer or at the application layer or at the software layer. However, the actual magic happens when we've got a great partnership going with government, with industry, and with education coming together. And this is a great, a great platform for all of us to come together and hope we all pick up and learn something very interesting over the next 2 days. Thank you so much, and a warm welcome again.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivasachari. We will await to see the keynote as well from him later today. I now request our guest of honor, Shri Anshuman Tripathi ji, member of the National Security Board, Division of National Security Council of Government of India, to address the summit. Anshuman Tripathi ji is presently a member of the NSAB. He's a Sloan Fellow from Stanford, GSB, and he's an executive consultant who specializes in creating entrepreneurial ecosystems worldwide in semiconductor, cyber physical systems, aerospace, and defense. He started his career as an ASIC designer at ST Microelectronics, holds a US patent on post-silicon ASIC modifications. As a graduate at UC Irvine, his research focused on ARM processors, smartphone technologies, and EDA. Let's now welcome Mr. Shri Anshuman Tripathi ji, address the delegates and the summit, and hear from him in his own words of what lies ahead and what he's doing for India's national security.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. And it's good to see so many programmers so early in the morning. Once upon a time when I used to be a programmer, it used to be an arduous task getting up in the morning and being there. And believe me, I still feel very scared sometimes when I have to be there somewhere on time in the morning. As most of you are into predictive analytics and all, she talked about the fact that I'm with the National Security Advisor's Office. What are the first things you think of? That we want to maintain control and we want to make India a superpower. We want to be on the top of it. If you look at it today, that to reach that goal, software and IT power is going to play a very big role. I had a slide that I had sent. Krishna, can you put up that slide? So 2 parts I'll talk about very briefly. The importance that the IT sector has created worldwide. You know, even the white American stand-up comedians, when they joke about India, they bring in the IT sector. That's the amount of importance that we have provided to the world. AI is becoming a big buzzword. Everybody wants to be something in AI. And if you're coming from the national security perspective and you are looking at entrepreneurship, I think this is the right time, the previous slide. This is the right time to actually look at opportunities in the AI space which can help maintain the balance. The important part right now in artificial intelligence is how do I keep the integrity of my intellectual property. Recently I was reading about this new software called Nightshade, which helps artists whose art is being digitized and being used in regenerative AI for creating AI art. They can actually put some code in their digitized form, which keeps it from being utilized. You want your school teachers to be able to know if your children are doing their homework or is ChatGPT doing the homework for them. From a national security perspective, those are some of the things that I like the next generation of entrepreneurs to look at. That is where we help keep the balance together. But to start with where the importance comes in, this is a slide that I use pretty often to showcase the importance of software. And fighter jet is the most complicated and most advanced piece of equipment in a war theater. And if you look from F-16 Block A in 1974, it had 1.3 lakh lines of code. 1974. And now if you go down to I think that is 2012, it had 24 million lines if you take the whole operation of operational and support software together for the F-35 Lightning. Can you change the slide? But if you look at the present drones being paired with the fighter jets like F-35, something's called the Loyal Wingman, we are looking at about 1 billion lines of code. Everything put together, this software is what will make the future of these combined systems, drones with fighter jets, fight the next generation of wars. Today we are looking at drones doing a lot of things in the geopolitical arena. Now the next step would be all matching up. This many lines of code, that many lines of opportunities for the IT sector. And we have our own set of planes. We have AMCA coming in on the next generation. We also have, the LCA, which is one of the smallest, in fact, the smallest in its sector. We have also built our aircraft carriers, and we are looking at growing in that sector. This is just one side. I'm not saying that we look at it all completely from that side, from the defense sector. What I'm saying is the opportunities of civil-military fusion get more and more diffused. What you do, where it goes, that's another opportunity for tracking of where your IP is going. And that's why I said AI and IP is one area that we should look at very seriously. And I look forward to a great summit today and tomorrow. And we look at AI and India going together to higher places. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anshuman Tripathi ji. That was very, very insightful. Now, may I request IESA President Mr. Krishnamurthy to please welcome the summit. Mr. Krishnamurthy has been associated with Rambus India as the CVP and Managing Director and led the National Semiconductor India Design Center as Managing Director. He's also held key positions in R&D at Bharat Electronics, and he's a veteran spanning over 35 plus years of industry. Mr. Murthy is on the board of advisors to many startups in semiconductor and IoT space. He's currently the president of India Electronics and Semiconductor Association. Let's now welcome Mr. Krishnamurthy to address the summit.
Very good morning to all of you. Respected Jayesh ji, Anshuman Tripathi ji, Srinivas, Venkata, and the chairperson of Hyderabad chapter of IESA, and my dear friend from Qualcomm, and the organizing committee of the third edition of AI Summit, and my dear friends from the industry and academia. First of all, I want to thank the Hyderabad chapter of IESA for putting together this wonderful summit. I think they deserve all the applause and congratulations. I am headquartered in Bangalore, so I could only try to monitor and suggest, along with my secretariat team, how to run this, but they did a wonderful job. Outstanding job, I must say. So thank you, all of you who were part of this journey. Generative AI is probably the first time where we are seeing the true integration of hardware and software. We have been talking about convergence of hardware and software in various contexts, integration of hardware and software, and we had built systems, created a hardware, and put an embedded software on it, created an application. But each gets developed in isolation, and then they are integrated somehow. Then the APIs do their magic work to make the whole thing work, a few iterations, and you get the system working. But now we are seeing a situation where each one of those components, the hardware is challenging the middleware, and the embedded software says, no, the hardware need to have this feature. The application guy finally says, no, both of you need to listen to me. So that true integration and each challenging the other to create an application solution, I think we are seeing for the first time. That's why I said true convergence of hardware and software is happening when we see generative AI in play. And slightly in a lighter vein, let me also cite a personal example where I used generative AI. I had a consumer court case against an insurance company because they were not admitting my insurance claim. I know there are a couple of lawyers here. Sorry that I'm trying to put them out of their job. No, that's not the idea. Just trying to highlight how generative AI influences. So I submitted the whole case history, the contract terms and what is expected, what's not happening into the generative AI tool. And it gave me all the past orders, past case histories, the arguments, specific arguments. I went and in consumer court, you can present your case yourself. You don't have to have a lawyer. Went and presented, won the case, got my money. And this is just an example. The influence generative AI is going to make in education, not just monitoring who is writing the homework, but the transformation of education, transformation of healthcare, the analytics And again, I can take time, but we are short on time, but how AI-generated analytics of some of the images are far more accurate than what a doctor can do today. There are many examples. So healthcare, public administration, there's nowhere government can hide now. Information will be digged out. What happened in the past, what was promised, what is committed, how much money is spent on these schemes, that schemes. So it is going to affect every facet of our life in the next 2 decades, that's for sure, whether we like it or not. But of course, we hope that it does not get, it's not misused by unscrupulous elements, but the future of generative AI, and so hence, when I saw the team that the team has put together, I felt so happy that we are absolutely in step with what's happening around the world. And Anshumanji just now talked about the size of the code, a billion lines of code. Just imagine the challenge of testing that, how to make sure that it works reliably under all conditions. Humongous tasks. But there are solutions available today. People are able to find solutions today thanks to the growth of generative AI. About IESA, I don't think I need to speak more, but any one of you who are here for the first time, IESA is an organization which is in existence for the last 17 years now. And we have been trying to address bring together, I would say, the government, the first place, the industry, the academia, and the society. How we can bring them together, how we can provide an impetus. So we work with the governments to formulate policies. Sometimes we help them write policies, or we bring them to their attention what are the policy amendments, changes required so that the industry can accelerate. With the industry itself, particularly with the MSMEs and startups, Indian companies and also multinational companies, what are the disabilities, what are their challenges today, how do we mitigate that? And we have this year in 22-23, we started 2 programs, one for MSMEs, how to connect them with the global MSMEs, and we have very good success. 10 of the MSMEs from India are now being selected to go to Japan to interact with the Japanese MSMEs. And we did the same thing with semiconductor startups. We have a few companies selected to incubate in ITRI, Taiwan, in their campus, so that for a period of 1 year, with all the travel expenses and accommodation, everything covered by ITRI. So we have been able to drive some very significant collaborative efforts. The manufacturing industry of electronics in India is growing leaps and bounds. Companies who are struggling to even run 1 shift are now saying that 3 shifts and still on allocation. To that extent, the manufacturing industry, particularly at the system level. Now what we need to move very fast is the semiconductor manufacturing, and that's where IESA is now focused on. And we already had the groundbreaking ceremony of Keynes technology bringing the ATMP to Hyderabad, a great success, sir, for JSG and the whole government. They very nicely, facilitated creating that. Last and more importantly, we work very closely with about 40 selected universities now, trying to drive what's called the Campus Connect program, wherein we not only do the propagation of electronics and semiconductor in the campus, but we also work with them to see how to revive or revise the curriculum, make the curriculum more relevant, the faculty development and faculty reorientation and capability developments. As the technology changes, the faculties have to be brought up to that level of competency. So we work with them, NIRF ranking, boot camps to develop entrepreneurs in the campus itself. So we are attacking it at multiple levels with a selected campus. Once we get control of 40 campuses, I'm sure we will be able to expand it to a larger number of them. Then the last but not the least, how do we benefit this? How do we make sure that all this will finally impact the society in which we live? How do we make their life better? So this is the overall agenda for IESA, and I'm sure almost all of you here are members of IESA. If you are not, please contact the IESA desk and near the registration to become a member, and we'll be very happy to stay connected with all of you. And I wish this summit all success, and extremely delighted to see this happen in the city of Hyderabad. And I did speak about Hyderabad as the AI capital of India when I came here to inaugurate the microchips campus. And I think this summit proves that this is the AI capital of India, and wish you all a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnamurthy ji, for that address. And it's interesting and wonderful to see all the initiatives IESA is actually providing, including the Connector Campus. Now let's welcome our chief guest, Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji, Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology Department of the Telangana Government. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan ji is a member of the Indian Administrative Service, IAS, of the 1992 batch and an All India topper. Currently working for the state of Telangana, and his current assignment involves developing policy frameworks, attracting new investments, identifying opportunities for utilizing IT in various government processes, and promoting the digital empowerment of the citizens. Let's give a big round of applause to Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji to address the summit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guest, Shri Anshuman Tripathi ji, Krishnamurthy garu, Shashi Reddy garu, Srinivas-chari garu, Venkat Simadri garu, senior leaders from the industry, IESA members, my colleagues from the government, Ramadevi garu, Ram Prasad garu. First of all, I would like to congratulate IESA and the Hyderabad chapter in particular for putting together the third edition of the AI Summit. As was mentioned by Venkat Simadri garu, the first two editions were conducted online. But glad that the third edition is happening in person, and very heartening to see the entire hall full of delegates. Lots of renowned industry experts have come here to deliver their addresses. Interesting sessions are lined up for today and tomorrow. So happy that this event is happening here, and even happier to learn that this now takes shape as an annual event. Every year you will be doing this in Hyderabad. When Krishnamurthy garu mentioned that Hyderabad is the AI capital, of course, I would still feel that that is not 100% true. We are striving to do our best to become a very important hub for AI in this country, in the world. And if events like this, if industry bodies like the IESA support us on the way, definitely one day, for sure, we will be counted as amongst the topmost AI destinations in the country. But there are many things which play to our advantage. In fact, Venkat Simadri garu mentioned, while the relevance of AI, the focus on AI is there for more than a decade now, but as a government, this realization has started over the last 4 or 5 years in particular, in India at least. And we were the first state, a government in the state, to realize the potential of AI. In fact, my colleague Ramadevi, who is the director of our Emerging Technologies Wing, with her initiative, we celebrated the year 2020 as the year of AI. And before we commenced the year on 1st of January, in 2019, towards the end of the year, we came out with a very, very comprehensive AI framework, which more or less spelled out what the government intends to do to promote AI in the state amongst all the stakeholders. And with that framework, we started 2020 as the year of AI. And now, of course, all of us will recall that 2020 was a very difficult year. In some ways, it was a washout year. But despite all the challenges, the lockdowns, the unexpected nature of this pandemic, I feel very proud to share with you that almost 80% of what we had planned to deliver throughout that year, we were able to successfully accomplish. But of course, when we declared something, some year as the year of AI, it does not mean that we started on the 1st of January and on 31st of December, our interest in AI faded away. Whatever we did in 2020 was built upon in 21, in 22, now in 23. We are going from strength to strength. But what I would like to do, I mean, all of you are semiconductor professionals, domain experts. I don't want to speak on semiconductor as much, but I would like to speak about what we have done for AI in the last 4 years and what we intend to do further, and what kind of interface do I see between the AI ecosystem, which has been so meticulously constructed in Hyderabad, and the IESA's member companies' interests. So as I mentioned, we developed this framework in 2019, late 2019. The framework has 5 important pillars. The first very important pillar, as all of us are aware, AI algorithms require humongous amounts of data, and typically governments themselves possess huge volumes of data, but most of these data remain untapped, unutilized. Most of the times they are not machine readable, they are not interoperable, they are in silos. So we have kind of taken care of that, and I'm very happy to share with you that we have been able to kind of utilize 130 plus data sets which are available in the government, more than 30 million individual records, and all that is available today in a machine readable form. It has, I mean, open access has been given to that data, and it is available for anyone and everyone to make use of. Of course, we have to follow standard, the SOPs related to confidentiality, masking, not using sensitive data, and so on and so forth, not using it for any commercial purpose without the consent, explicit consent of the user. But besides all those SOPs, humongous amounts of data is available. We also require high performance computing capability to make use of that data, and other speakers alluded to it. And again, I'm very happy to share with you that we were perhaps the first state to partner with NVIDIA, which also possibly is one of your members. And with the help of NVIDIA, we have been able to install a high-performance computing facility in IIT Hyderabad, which has been made available to all the stakeholders at a highly discounted price through the facilitation of our government. And the second high-performance computing center also is coming up in JNTU, and over a period of time, we intend to put up a few more such centers. So data is available, high-performance computing systems are available. The third very important thing is, in this chain, that where is the talent to run that data, to run high-performance computing, to generate algorithms, etc. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest responsibilities of the government, to create a steady pipeline of good quality talent, which understands some of the latest algorithm development tools, generation tools, and is able to master those tools in a very efficient and quick manner. So with the help of a government agency which is called TASK, Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, we have started running all kinds of AI courses. See, normally when we speak of AI, and typically when we use terms like algorithms, etc., the typical understanding is that it requires very advanced skills. You require PhD level skills to be able to do that kind of work. But many of you would be aware that AI related work spans a range of skills, and some of the skills are very basic. You need to annotate data, you need to cleanse data, you need to organize data, you need to make that data machine readable, interoperable, where the level of skills required are kind of basic. You don't require PhDs to do that kind of work, even a person with very basic kind of an education. And again, we found out that such people need not actually be living in Hyderabad or to be located in Hyderabad to do these things. They can be located in a tier 2 town, a tier 3 town. And we have received amazing initial results. Many companies today have chosen to work with Telangana government in setting up their data annotation centers in a small place. And the very latest in that series is Uber. Incidentally, we just signed an MOU with them about 2 weeks ago. They have chosen to set up their data annotation team, 200-member team to begin with, in a tier 2 town called Warangal. Of course, Warangal is relatively tier 2 because otherwise that is also a million-plus city and relatively, as compared to Hyderabad, tier 2, but otherwise a city which is well endowed with large number of colleges and social infrastructure and not very far from Hyderabad as well. So that is something which is happening in this state, steady creation of talent across the range of skill sets that are required, basic talent to advanced talent. Many of the colleges in Telangana today offer specialized courses in AI/ML. We have a very active train the trainer or train the faculty program so that the faculty skills are also upgraded. And the response that I get from the industry, when there are many companies today who have their AI practices operating out of Hyderabad. There are many niche companies who are exclusively working on AI and ML, and they have set up their development centers in Hyderabad. And the appreciation that I get about the talent which they encounter in this city is, again, something very heartwarming. So I firmly believe that this particular responsibility that we have taken upon ourselves to continuously create this steady flow of pipeline, that is working well. Another very important pillar of our AI framework is to promote innovation and research. And again, I'm very happy to share with you, just as you are IESA, there is a association of software companies which is called NASSCOM. NASSCOM has chosen to set up their Center of Excellence on Data Sciences and AI in partnership with our government, Telangana government, here in Hyderabad. This Center of Excellence is up and running for the last 4 years. And this also is considered to be one of the national role models. How we have been able to bring the best of industry, the best of academia, of course the government, to coalesce into something which is very strong. It identifies use cases, it finds the best possible solution providers, it runs grant challenges, it runs incubation programs, runs acceleration programs. And some of the use cases that we have tried out so far, a few of them to have the potential of being recognized amongst the best in the world in days to come. I'd like to mention one such use case, which apparently very simple, is potentially having a huge, enormous impact throughout the world. See, many of you would be aware that poaching is a very serious problem. In fact, many wildlife sanctuaries witness this abominable phenomena of people killing animals to extract parts of their bodies, and it's very, very tragic. And as we all know, forest areas are remotely located, they don't have connectivity, there's very limited kind of infrastructure. And of course, the forest department tries to prevent poaching as much as they can, but as far as we know, poachers always have the upper hand, and this is a real shame, a real blot on humanity. So again, using an innovative idea generated from a startup, we have been able to do image processing despite not having high compute facilities, connectivity, etc., which distinguishes between animal movement and human movement, and judges whether something unnatural is happening on a real-time basis. See, the real essence of detecting something like poaching is that it has to be very real-time. If you tell the department 1 day later or 2 days later that I detected some movement which was not natural, it is too late. By that time, this dastardly act would have already been done. So how do you alert the officials, the guards, the patrol, that something has been captured on a camera, which is not a natural animal movement of the animals which are found in that area. So this has been tested in one wildlife sanctuary in Telangana. We are now scaling it up to 2 more wildlife sanctuaries, and lots of national attention is coming to this particular initiative of ours. So there are many such use cases that have been rolled out. I don't have precise count, but I will not be surprised if in the last 4 or 5 years we have been able to roll out at least 20 plus interesting use cases using AI and ML within the government agencies itself. Other very important pillar, again, some of the speakers alluded to it, is about the responsible use of AI. While AI is important, in fact, some of you would be hearing about it or reading about it. This has become a major discussion point over the last 2 days, which is about deep fakes. How the image of a film actress has been morphed and havoc has been kind of created in her life. And these kind of things, deep fakes and fake news and misusing AI for commercial gains and all kinds of adverse consequences of technology that we are familiar with. We are witnessing all that at a kind of with very serious kind of implications in the world of AI as well. So as a government, it is again our responsibility on creating a very ethical kind of template to implement AI solutions, to have a very robust governance structures. And again, I'm very happy to share with you that recently we have been able to finalize a framework which we will be utilizing in Telangana, which will evaluate every AI solution on 2 parameters. One is on the harm that it can potentially cause. Second is the impact that it can create. And not only will the deployer, which in most of the cases will be the government, be checked or tested on these 2 parameters, even the developer will be checked on these 2 parameters. And only when all the 4 boxes are ticked, that the solution will be given the green signal to go live. So this is again something which I'm very sure will become a kind of a role model for others, other stakeholders, other governments to also emulate. And finally, we are very keen to implement whatever we want to do in a partnership mode. The government, of course, will play an important role as we have done over the last 4 years, but it is industry bodies, industry companies, entrepreneurs, innovators, academia, who are the ones who actually bring solutions, who bring use cases, who implement, who show results, who scale up. And it is our responsibility to put all of them together to create a very congenial ecosystem. And I'm very happy that IESA, as a body, as individual members, are recognizing the value of AI, which also can drive lots of innovation, lots of growth, lots of advancement in your area as well. So given the fact that the kind of work that we have been doing in the last 4 years, I'm pretty confident, while Hyderabad is not the only tech center in the country, there are many others, some of them are bigger than ours, but this kind of focused work which has happened here in Telangana, I'm 100% sure that no one else has even imagined that a government can do these kind of things. And therefore, I feel this to be very very appropriate when IESA says that they will do AI summit here. But my suggestion and my request and my appeal now is that let us also translate these ideas into action. I mean, holding summits is important. It's a very important platform to share ideas, to exchange ideas, to understand what are the important trends, to share best practices. But let us also move into action mode now. So I have 3 proposals, 3 concrete proposals before IESA members. One is, just as we are getting problem statements, challenges from other user agencies, let the semiconductor, electronics and VLSI industry also tell us what are the important challenges which confront the industry. And let us run regular events, hackathons, challenge programs, etc., to attract bright minds, young innovators to at least attempt to find solutions to those problems. And let us also work together to give space to as many of these potential solutions as possible. So let the Telangana government and IESA have a series of events which hosts problem statements and grand challenges in months and years to come. The second suggestion is that just as NASSCOM has set up their Center of Excellence on Data Sciences and AI in Hyderabad, I mean, they could have done it anywhere in the country, but they felt that the best support from a government that can come their way will come here only. And for the last 4 years, as I said, that Center of Excellence is really flourishing and thriving. So this is the second suggestion, to set up a COE. The Hyderabad chapter can host it, we can host it. I mean, it can be co-located with the NASSCOM center as well, because they are complementary, there is no conflict of interest. And if you have that Center of Excellence, there are many other things you can do, including running those challenges, etc. The third thing is, as I said, we are running skilling programs, mass skilling programs in large numbers. But I also realize now that skilling is becoming more and more niche now. So it is like the generalist versus specialist kind of debate, that you can understand technology, but these days the focus of technology is becoming narrower and narrower and narrower. So please support our institution. I mentioned a while ago that the skilling institution in Telangana is called TASK. So please support TASK in introducing some courses which are relevant for the VLSI, semiconductor and electronics industry related to AI. So AI in semiconductors, AI in VLSI, AI in electronics, design some courses, provide some master trainers who can train some of the faculty. We can introduce these courses in some of the colleges to begin with. And of course, once you get trained professional, give them employment opportunities. It is not just training for training's sake. Create positions, create openings in your organizations, so that while you have hardware experts and the chip testing and the chip design and the manufacturers in your teams, also give positions to AI and ML background specialists as well. So I hope that Krishnamurthy Garu and others will consider some of these requests which I am making, and that will really show if you are sincere about adopting AI, or this is just a fad that you just want to ride along with so many other sectors who are doing something similar. So once again, I convey my good wishes to the organizers of this 2 days conference. I look forward to some very good ideas, some very practical and implementable ideas coming out of this conference. And I would request the Hyderabad chapter to share some of the key takeaways after these 2 days sessions with us, so that we can design some joint action plan. Once again, warm welcome to everyone who has come to Hyderabad from somewhere else. This is the best time of the year to be in Hyderabad, so enjoy our hospitality and have a great IESA AI summit here in Hyderabad. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan ji. That was very insightful, and you hit the nail on the head, talking about all the various pillars that are required for a proper AI framework to work, and not just the data and governance, ethics, key parts of the AI framework and policies to work for any nation. And the proposals and the key takeaways that we will share from the IESA 2-day summit. Now, I'd like to request Mr. Srinivas Rajugaru, CEO of Pi Square and Conference Chair of IESA, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries on dais, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure and gratitude that I stand before you today on behalf of IESA AI Summit team, representing them here. We're deeply honored and privileged to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished guests, our chief guest, Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji, our guest of honor, Shri Anshuman Tripathi ji, our esteemed guests, Shri Krishnamurthy ji, Shri Shashi Reddy ji, and Sri Srinivasachari and Sri Venkat Simhadriji. Your presence and invaluable insights have been instrumental in shaping the path of this summit. I genuinely, excited about the next 2 days, which promises to be wellspring of knowledge and wisdom, delivering, a lot of insightful keynotes and panel discussions by industry experts. Our focus will be on the most critical aspects of future of AI and generative AI, encompassing both hardware and software innovations. I think this is one such conference where we discuss deeply about the semicon, the chip level, design level improvements, and the native AI hardware architectures that are being discussed in this forum. Otherwise, typically you see AI is more software driven. I think this is the unique summit that the IESA is doing it. I'm confident that our delegates will not only gain profound insights, but also forge new relationships as a part of the networking activity that we have. This summit has drawn participation from 125 companies, representatives of 125 companies, and over 450 enthusiastic delegates will be part of this conference across these 2 days. Such an event of this magnitude is not possible without support from the organizing committee. I think they've been tirelessly working with the support of the IESA Secretariat team. It's been, I think, 3 months. I think the team is working tirelessly to put this event together. I thank organizing committee, our esteemed speakers, sponsors, media, and especially government for supporting this event. In closing, I wish all our guest speakers, delegates, an immersive and enriching experience during the next 2 days of the summit. Your presence and engagement are what it makes this event truly successful. Thank you once again, and wish you a very insightful 2 days. And before I conclude, I would like to tell JSG, I think he's man of action. I think wherever he goes, it's not like he addresses, but he gives a task. So, sir, just to acknowledge, I think most of the 3 points that you have discussed, IESA is already in some form implementing it. I think we will take this as an action, and our Hyderabad chapter, along with IESA HQ, we will work with the respective teams and take things forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Just announce.
May I request the dignitaries to please stay on the stage for felicitation? May I request the AV team to please play the music? I request Mr. Krishnamurthy, President and CEO of IESA, to present a memento to our chief guest, Shri Jayesh Ranjan Ji, Principal Secretary, Department of IT, Electronics and Communications, and Department of Industries and Commerce of Government of Telangana. A very big applause and thank you for that. May I now request Mr. Shashi Reddy, Vice President of Qualcomm, to present a memento to our guest of honor, Shri Anshuman Tripathi Ji, Member, National Security Advisory Board, Government of India. I'd like to see some more energy, please. May I now request Mr. Venkata Simhadri, Founding Partner and Board Member of ASIP Technologies, to present a memento to Mr. Srinivasachari, Lead Solutions Architect, Dell Technologies. I'd like to request Mr. Wade, IESA Conference Chair, to present a memento to Mr. Krishnamurthy, President and CEO of IESA.
Reflection. What's your reflection?
May I now request Mr. Srinivas Abairi, Vice President of Engineering and India Site Lead Plume Design, to present a memento to Mr. Shashi Reddy, Vice President Qualcomm.
Reflection.
I'd now like to request Mr. Balpreet Singh, Director at Intel Corporation, to present a memento to Mr. Venkat Simhadri, Founding Partner and Board Member, ASIP Technologies.
Reflection. What's your reflection?
Thank you, Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji, Shri Anshuman Tripathi ji, and all the dignitaries and esteemed guests on the stage for your time today and taking our time and addressing the delegates. We now move on to exhibit booth inaugural. I'd like to request the IESA conference volunteer team and the conference chairs to escort our dignitaries for the exhibit booth inaugurals, and I would like to request all the attendees to please stay seated in your seats until the booth inaugural is completed. Please stay seated in your seats.
Very good put together. Circuit Sutra. You go this way or you go that way? You go this way. What is it showing? What is This is a Qualcomm. Hello.
Yes.
What's special here?
We call the picture quality, the facial revision, so that is image quality on the face. Moving forward, in this form, face detection is off, and the image quality, brightness and all is not good. Whereas in this one, it is better because the face is detected.
Okay.
We have other features also, facial landmark detection also.
Fantastic. Is there a name for this feature that you have?
It's implemented face detection, just facial landmark detection. Yeah. It can be used in augmented reality, virtual reality, to overlay face mask, in gaming. Yeah, it's face detection and facial recognition is
Challenges to find the person. Impressive. And you have some demos here, huh?
We have some demos for generative IESA. So there are large language models running entirely on device in airplane mode, and we have image generation as well. So this is similar to ChatGPT. You can ask for any prompt without being connected to internet. It entirely answers the question on devices. So there are around 7 billion parameter models we are deploying entirely on device. So you prepare the model, deploy it once, no connection to internet, it runs.
On the platform itself. Very good for privacy and security of the information. Nothing goes to access to models. Especially with access to
These are open source models we are demonstrating. And we are also giving steps on how to deploy custom models as well.
7 billion and 13 billion.
13 billion parameters.
So this is the image generation.
Text. We have a give a description and within a second we have different models. Yeah. So this is the text and this converts to text.
This is a prompt. This prompt, once we try to generate, the prompt is converted to an image. So this is text to image model. So we can try with any of these predefined prompt, or we can give our own prompt as well. It takes around 6 seconds on this particular hardware, but there is still scope for optimization.
Latest chips and it can do within a second.
Within a second? Yeah.
There is no dependency
So
that's the
Oh, so you can make out.
you can't make out. But they use the application.
Very impressive, very impressive. And how much of this was the R&D work done in India?
Significant.
Significant, right? You have a very big unit.
Yes.
Very good.
Here we have a real world application. Summary of
The whole talk. This is what
action items have been discussed. This is a kind of a use case which can be used in defense kind of security scenarios where you can generate summary.
absolutely very
So this is the minutes of the meeting.
What do we have here?
You don't need to. So we are a Bangalore-based software company. We've been helping semiconductor companies around the world automate their workflow across the product development life cycle. In the last year, we've started using generative AI in smooth automation. So we are seeing tremendous potential. For example, ask them to generate all their validation scripts manually. So now we are just telling them you write the saying what you want to do, and it will generate the desired product. This is not the only stage. Across there and figuring out, okay, what do I do next? So they just like a small query into their chat, and it's bringing up all the relevant documentation, best practices. So, I mean, in fact, one of the big challenges we have now is we don't have well-trained engineers in the whole ecosystem. We think who write documents, nobody remembers to do it. So that's the other problem that this solves actually. When you write good documentation, best practices, checklists.
So you're part of moisture. Yeah. 23 years.
Our own hardwares for the defense and space applications. Sorry?
For defense?
For defense.
Yeah, because the Indian company, so you have a lot of branches.
We also represent some of the Israeli-based companies, a course, artificial intelligence course,
Artificial intelligence.
BSP course.
For a customer in India.
Oh, okay. So everything is solution and
DRDO was
the
a
demand and
customer.
supply both were
DRDO was a customer. We were sitting next to them.
fantastic. And what was the chip for?
Ship for the Anurag is the
Oh, acha.
for the handheld devices.
Handle device.
And also now we are doing a venture for ISRO, the space applications.
Okay, that also you're doing. Which node is this? 28 nanometer?
One is 28 nanometer.
Plenty. Autonomous Institute. So, you're making a SoC?
I oscillate over and over right now. Split my I'm from Generative. The old campus. New they will shift up. Majority of the program is happening So Essential is a Carnegie Mellon University spin-off, and we build solutions at the intersection of AI and hardware. And we have a proprietary framework around TinyML, which accelerates the implementation of AI and make it more efficient. definite evaluation on the go, unlike learning it from the cloud.
I hope you've had a good tea break or a coffee break, coffee lovers, chai lovers. We'll kickstart the keynote with Mr. Srinivasachari, Lead Solutions Architect, Dell Technologies. Srini has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, spanning across enterprise architecture, data center, and optimizations, with experience spanning multiple geographies, as we've discussed earlier. Let's now welcome Mr. Srini to give a keynote on AI and infrastructure solutions at Dell.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rama. Is there a clicker in my presentation is on? I just want to do. To everybody, to this August session today early in the morning. Fantastic to have you in this room, and then it's an honor to be in front of you guys talking about how AI as generative AI is transforming our lives, not just now, but this is a technology that is going to be there for multiple decades to come through. Somebody mentioned, actually there was a video, they said that, this is something like how internet was in the 90s, or how virtualization was in sometime in 2000s. Today we believe generative AI is the stepping stone on how the technology is going to transform over the next couple of decades. We are at the beginning of a very long journey and a very fantastic journey. But it just doesn't happen so easily. We did a survey. Okay. Is this on? Quick survey in Dell, where we interviewed about 200 of them, 200 CIOs, CTOs, decision makers in IT organizations. And a very simple question was asked: do you use generative AI in your personal sphere, as not through the organization, but as a general person? 91% of them said yes. Well, I believe this number is slightly low, because at this point in time, all of us use, in our personal sphere, generative AI in one form or the other. Whether I am planning my next holiday, then I will ask GPT. I don't do Google anymore, I end up doing GPT, because the answers are a lot more well-rounded. The next question we asked them was, are you using this technology in your organization, as an enterprise capability? 71% of them said yes. Now, this is where, there is an alarm that struck us, because we did another survey sometime in September, this last September, 2023, where the N was a good 1,000 plus, Tech Analysis one. And they said only 8% of organizations actually have a process or policy on how to use generative AI for enterprises or for organizations. So which means employees were trying to identify answers or figure out answers in a public domain, putting risk organizations. Now, we have seen this earlier in some form about how many of us have heard shadow IT? All of us, I'm assuming. Yeah? So this is exactly what is happening now. We are seeing shadow AI that comes up for organizations, right? And which brings us an enough and more scope for people like us, practitioners, developers. Actually, how do we leverage AI in an enterprise, right? One of the biggest challenges that is blocking everybody, that there are multiple numbers. I'm not going to read out all of them, but I'm going to call out a couple of them clearly. 39% of them says the biggest risk or biggest challenge in adoption of this technology or setting up policies in an organization is employee skill gap. Now, this is a funny number. I've got a point, a very, very funny, interesting point. India has got the second highest talent of AI at this point in time. And still we are saying that it is less. It is still, people are calling out that it is a very small number. Imagine the amount of scope of improvement, amount of scope of deployment that we are going to see, that even after being number 2 in the talent pool, we believe it is less. So, as people in academia over here, we know that we are going to churn out some really good engineers, we are really going to turn out some good developers, good scientists that will work on data. So, but then that needs to pick up in multifold space. The other thing that stood out very clearly is 78% of them say training on enterprise data is critical. This is about understanding generic versus specialist. The sir explained over here on the stage how education is becoming far more narrower, far more specialist than being a traditional generalistic approach. Now, it is exactly the same in AI as well. You ask a GPT, you might get a 6 out of 10 answer, which may or may not be good for your organization. But if I want an answer that I'm looking for, very centric to my organization, which has got flavor of my organization, which has got data from my organization, then the results could be 9 out of 10, at that grade. So everybody understands that the learning has to happen beyond what is available on the public domain, right? The other thing that stood out very interestingly was 82% of them said that they preferred training this on-prem as against training this, a purely public place. It could be multiple challenges, data sovereignty, data security, IP safety, and things like that which would come into play. And if we don't have enough skill set, how do we set up guardrails to ensure our IP does not go out, our IP is not stolen? What we build on AI is not actually, taken out into public and gets leaked out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show some of the challenges that we see organizations face. I'm going to call out some names. These are publicly available. I really want you to empathize with them. This could be one that actually came out, but then there are many more which are not there as well. Getting generative AI wrong can actually become a headline. For example, and the clicker just fails on me. Okay, can we have a next click? okay, skip 2 now. Okay, yeah. So some of them, intellectual property laws, I spoke about this earlier. Data leakage happened when some of the engineers in Samsung actually accidentally revealed their codes online by simply asking ChatGPT. Whatever we ask in a public domain gets fed back into its training. That data becomes its training ground, and hence we have to be very clear on what data or what kind of questions we actually ask in public domain. Privacy issues. As a person, when we go ahead and log into public domain, we understand the challenges today. However, we don't necessarily know how the data is handled. We go and reveal enough and more personal information into the public domain, how it gets handled, how it gets, even if I say, even if they say that your data is not going to be used further, or if they say your data is going to be deleted, it's still in public domain for a good 30 days. So, and that, if there is a rogue character somewhere in your organization has got access to it, can actually manipulate and play around with it. So those are some of the challenges, right? And then compliance violation, AI discrimination has a problem. Racial profiling is one of the things that we have seen. If the algorithm, if the model is not trained properly with guardrails, it will have challenges. It will have hallucinations. It will start creating its own biases into its predictions. And sometimes that may hurt individual as well as the bank. That's exactly what happens in compliance violation. Okay, I think the battery is dead. Yeah, biases, I've spoken about biases, right? So in one of the occasions, a Southeast Asian girl actually said, I want to look smart and intelligent. And the generative AI changed her, color from Southeast Asian to a white, changed the color of her eyes from black to blue. And then she now doesn't look any more like a Southeast Asian, so this is clearly racial profiling. So there are these biases which will come into play if the data is not handled properly and if it is not fed through the systems, if it is not trained correctly with guardrails in mind. Yeah, something is wrong with this, man. Yeah, I need to be in control. Oh. Now, this is a very interesting one, IP infringements. It has actually learned from images to create and to generate newer images. Now, you see, it has actually picked up the Getty images as well, the watermark that we typically put. It is at the knee, and in the new generated image, that is also at the knee level. So if you see over here, the watermark also has been copied to create a new one. So we have to make sure how the IP infringement is actually handled. Who holds the copyright? The AI algorithm, the person who has created the AI algorithm. How do you control? How do you control the IP that is generated by a public domain for a personal organizational requirement? That becomes one of the key challenges that we have to look into. But at the end of the day, it is the data which creates a huge differentiator, right? What data is fed in? How do you handle? How do you cleanse the data? How do you have good data management to ensure the outcomes are a lot more logical and a lot more predictable? Data quality and fit, as we say, is the key to success. Now, if I have to, now that I've got the data, overall generational models, whenever it gets deployed in enterprises, there are three key things that we have to keep in mind. A, it has to be extremely simple. The architecture has to be straightforward. It should be modular in nature. So it means if you start small, you should be able to grow. You don't have to re-architect, re-engineer your architecture when you're building these solutions in your organization. It needs to be tailored for the organization that you are working for, that you're developing for, to bring in the flavor of that organization so that the answers are a lot more relatable and a lot more predictable. And then, of course, as I said, it needs to be protected through guardrails so that the responses or the overall infrastructure or overall solution is a lot more trustworthy. So these are the three key things that any organization needs to keep in mind. It needs to be simple, modular, it needs to be tailored for that organization, so there have to be certain customizations that needs to be built in, and of course, it needs to be trustworthy. And this is at every stage, while I'm handling data, while I'm building the data pipeline, while I'm doing the training, when I'm doing the inferencing, and of course, the overall way on how do I protect each of these pillars in an organization, right? One of the questions that I kept, asked all the time, where do I place my AI models? It is a hyper-converged world. It is a hybrid world, hybrid cloud world. You will not have, you cannot definitely say, either just public cloud is great, or just edge is great, or your own data center is great. We have to go ahead and identify through multitude of parameters to go ahead and identify which one makes sense for your organization. What is the end objective that you're trying to achieve out of this, right? So secure access, the kind of use cases itself, how fast you want to go off the, off the board, how soon do you want to identify your time to market. And of course, cost plays a key role as well. How much do you have upfront versus if you've got something over a period of time? How do you go ahead and spread out that to ensure that your architecture is a lot more reliable? And then of course, where is the data? Is the data more at edge, that more the data is in the cloud, or is it in your own organization, spread across multiple different silos? How do I go ahead and bring them together? Answering where this data resides is a key question that everybody in this project who is trying to build AI for an organization has to answer. Yeah, this just is funny. Yeah. So simplifying data management is one of the key things. Without a good data, without having a good pipeline on data, it is extremely impossible to have a precision and accuracy in your prediction, right? That data can be structured. We've got databases. Typically, the data is structured very well, articulated and in rows and columns. And then you've got semi-structured and unstructured data. What we are seeing is all the growth that is happening now and moving forward, it's this semi-structured and unstructured data that is going to grow. It's the images, it's the documents, it's the text files, which cannot be put in as rows and columns. Those are the ones that are growing at a crazy velocity. For example, it's a well-known statement that the amount of data in the data universe doubles every 2 years. And today, we are analyzing about 6% of data. Now, with these technologies like generative AI, ability to harness this data in entirety is a real possibility. If you are able to analyze more data, the outcomes are a lot more smarter and a lot more relevant. It identifies pattern, gives an input that can be leveraged by organizations to act on them and gain the competitive edge, right? So your data architecture should be federated. You should be able to bring in data from different silos together. You should be able to query them one shot. You don't have to query them separately because you want data in entirety for you to analyze in your organization, right? But the data itself or the use of data varies on the kind of generative AI that we are looking for. If it is traditional, straightforward, pre-trained model or inferencing, you're just picking up a model that is available, maybe a Llama or any Bloom, and then put it in your organization, don't change any data. You just put it behind a firewall. There is nothing required. You're not even using your data. You're still using public data. If I'm using RAG or something like a model augmentation, then I have the model, but then I inference it through my data set within the organization. I still need to find a way to bring my data together, feed it into the system. It is still better than doing fine-tuning. It consumes lesser compute power, but then it is still very generic because the model is not trained according to your organization's requirements. Then you've got fine-tuning, where we pick up publicly available models, fine-tune it with the data using prompt training or p-tuning to ensure the outcomes are much more relevant, much more comprehensible, and much more relevant. So these are the things. This still requires certain amount of compute power, but much lesser than going ahead and building the true foundational models, which is the next one, which is model training. And this is where, if you are building a foundational model, then the amount of data required is extremely high. The amount of compute resource required is extremely high. The overall skill set required by the organization also varies a lot. So these are the things we have to keep in mind. For example, if we are doing which of these we are doing, and basis that I have to go ahead and plan my data architecture behind. One of the ways that we do is by building a data lake house. We build it on Starburst, enterprise-based. It's an open source, infinitely scalable on-prem solution. It is open architecture. It is publicly available, no holds barred. And then it actually works with Iceberg and Delta Lake. And ability to bring both environments together, on-prem as well as your public cloud data under one umbrella, so that you can go and query wherever you are, becomes one of the key parameters when you deploy something like a data lake house. At the end of the day, about 70% of the time is spent by data scientists in making sure his data set is right. Because if the data set is wrong, his overall predictions are also not so very clear. So one of the ways is you have to keep it open, you have to keep it enterprise class, you have to keep it trustworthy. Ability to bring AI to your data is a lot more critical than taking your data to AI. So that is one of the key parameters in architecture that we have to keep in mind. Wherever the data is in your organization, edge, data center, cloud, different departments, how do I take my AI to them becomes one of the key things that we all have to plan. One of the ways is making sure there are APIs available, there are validated design solutions available for multitude of AI players within the organization, industry. So just to sum it up, this is my last slide for now. What we are saying is, generative AI is real. It is going to be there for decades to come. We have to make sure we do it right. It has to be tailored for the organization that you are in. General purpose AI, generative AI will yield results, but then they won't yield results as much as personalized generative AI for your organization. It needs to be protected through guardrails very clearly to ensure there are no biases or hallucinations that are there, because longer repercussions of them being are very high than not doing it. So that is the other thing. And then of course, our recommendation is to go work with a partner, the hardware partner, the solution partner, the software partner, the entire ecosystem, to somebody who is very trustworthy, who's got skill set in this, and who's able to take you and walk you through this journey. That's what we want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivasachari Garu. May I now request Mr. Shashi Reddy ji to felicitate Mr. Srinivasachari with a memento. I'm sorry about the clicker. May I request the AV team to put the laptop up so that we can get the receiver strength. While sharing, I'd also like to request the AV team to be ready with the next presentation and the speaker. We now have the next session led by Dr. Vinesh Sukumar remotely on AI, generative AI at the edge, the new frontier of AI in Semicon. With over 20 years of industry experience, Dr. Vinesh Sukumar is a seasoned AI/ML product leader who currently leads the AI/ML product management team at Qualcomm. He's responsible for defining and executing the AI/ML product strategy and vision across multiple business units, from mobile to automotive domains, and delivering innovative and impactful solutions for customers and consumers. Dr. Sukumar has a PhD in electrical engineering, specializing in imaging and vision systems, and an MBA in strategy and marketing and operations management. He's proficient in conversational AI, deep neural networks, and artificial intelligence, and has authored multiple journal papers and 2 technical books. He's also a board member and advisor for several academia and industry organizations. Let's welcome Dr. Vinesh Sukumar remotely on the insightful discussion on generative AI. Thank you. Dr. Sukumar, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. You can please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning, one and all. Thank you for coming to my talk. For folks who don't know me, I'm Vinesh Sukumar. I lead the AI product team at Qualcomm, where I should say I have the opportunity and privilege to think blue sky, and working with some fantastic colleagues of mine, translate that blue sky vision into products spanning from handsets or mobile devices all the way to complex systems like auto. I truly wish I could be there in person, meeting you guys in 3D, but unfortunately because of last minute travel changes, I just couldn't be there in person. So thank you for the opportunity for presenting my talk more virtually. The topic of today's discussion I wanted to really bring up is bringing generative AI to edge-based form factors, which is a new frontier. So I was trying to prepare myself for the slide, and I was trying to ask myself, how do I articulate this to my audience? So I thought maybe, I'll try to relate a personal experience of mine, and maybe that kind of, conveys a message from that slide. My mother, who is about 65 years old, calls me up a couple of weeks ago at 5 a.m. in the morning, and she says, are you working on AI? When you get a call from an elderly person, especially family, this early in the morning, you always, your heart sinks and you always aim for the worst thing. And you get a little shocked when she asks a question like this. I said, yes, I am working on AI. And she said, okay, I got a few concerns. Can you help me out with that? I said, okay, let's see what you have. She apparently downloaded an app. It apparently helps take her selfies, and using generative AI, removes wrinkles in her face and adds 20 years back, to her age. She was extremely happy. I was happy that she was happy because she was able to circulate that into her social circles and made her completely busy. But apparently it stopped working. And she called me up to see if I could help debug and get it fully functional. Now, after 30 minutes of debug, I realized that it is a paid app, and it can only do, those modifications on images for about 25 such shots. And after 25 selfies, it stops working unless you pay for it. Now, obviously, you can't argue with an elderly person. After 30 minutes of debug, I gave up and I said, fine, I'll take care of it. But the essence of the problem statement is, if you really want to scale generative AI to consumer-based applications, it becomes extremely difficult to host this kind of experience on a cloud, only because the cost per query becomes extremely expensive, the foundational infrastructure that is needed to really drive applications that are associated with image and video creation, linguistics, chatbots becomes extremely expensive. And you just cannot be in a position to deliver the quality of service that's needed for the billions of users. So we at Qualcomm, we are really trying to push on seeing that can we solve this problem in the way that you can touch the common man by translating this kind of experiences onto the edge. So that being said, we have been working on, I would say, a generative AI-based use cases for give or take approximately 18 months. Now, we strongly believe at Qualcomm that edge enablement provides the infrastructure both for user privacy and also provides you the additional infrastructure for security while saving the cost to the end consumer. Now you see one graph here, which is on the left-hand side, with the x-axis telling the number of parameters and the y-axis telling what kind of use cases could be established as a function of supporting these number of parameters. Now, our CEO, Mr. Christian Amon, in his financial call a couple of months ago, had highlighted the fact is our Qualcomm devices right now have the ability to support up to 10 billion parameters. Now, again, these are foundational models in nature, and you need to fine-tune them either through low-rank adaptation or reinforcement learning with human feedback in a way that it services specific tasks, and these tasks can be tuned to any given form factor or function. And that's what we're trying to do, that we're taking this investment in foundational model and then help create or optimize productivity experiences either in the PC space or content creators in the AR, VR space. And also, try to see if you could help support content consumption in mobility-based form factors. Now, the question will always be the case is this is great, but has Qualcomm really been in a position to accomplish and then showcase this? So we've done that, and here you can see two such examples. In Mobile World Congress earlier this year, we showcased the ability to take a complex model like Stable Diffusion and then able to quantize it and run this on device. About 12 or 18 months ago, there was a lot of craze where DALL-E came up with a text-to-image kind of an exposure, and you could see a lot of consumers actually playing with it to create content based on the input prompt. The input prompt, you could keep it as small as 10 characters, you can go as long as 140 characters. And people, to a large extent, assumed this kind of experience is only available through cloud. So we had worked with a few startup companies who actually provided us access to their language vision models, or LVM as we call it. And then we had quantized those models from a floating point to fixed point so that it has a much smaller memory footprint, and then we were able to accomplish it. When we showcased this in Mobile World Congress, it was approximately give or take about 10 seconds. And I would say about a week and a half ago, we had showcased the same Stable Diffusion running on our latest generation Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 platform at less than 1 second. So I'll play a video to showcase that, just to show how this was completely established. Here you can see you have a prompt. The prompt provides you the flexibility of generating content, and you could keep doing it till it satisfies it for any given user. Here you can see that we already have a predefined a prompt. You have approximately give or take 20 iterations, and based on the iterations and the context you had provided, it decodes it and then provides any kind of a collateral. On the right hand side is something very similar, what we call as a control net. The control net is also an experience wherein you can do an image-to-image transformation. This is completely applicable to a common consumer, wherein if you happen to have a lot of images in your gallery, you could take any such image, you can zoom in or zoom out, and any backfill can be completely replaced with collateral. This is what we call as in-painting or out-painting, depending upon whether it's a zoom in or a zoom out function. All of this is fully possible using diffusion models, which are very mapped to control net. Again, we're kind of showcasing examples which are totally doable. We anticipate these kind of experiences to be available in consumer devices coming up in 2024 using the Qualcomm AI stack that is fully established for all the developers. Now, moving forward, there's always been a question, even coming from my chain of command, is okay, this is great. You're working on generative AI use cases. How does this work actually help enable, or from an edge perspective standpoint? So what I've taken is, we have a few examples, and I'll kind of showcase how these examples are actually related to a common consumer. Our expectations, we start with something small, make it simple enough, make it user-friendly enough, and with time organically, expand on top of it. So the very first example we try to do is productivity support. Now, based off significant amount of user studies that we have done, one of the common challenges has been is, can generative AI be in a position for composition of email? So we believe using investment of large language models, we can absolutely create a true digital assistant, wherein here we have a small modification. The LLM has a front end mapped onto voice. The voice can be based on whisper-based models. You could use automatic speech recognition, echo cancellation, and speaker identification, wherein your context and speech can be completely translated into a text, and using foundational LLM models, which is fine-tuned to a productivity task, can help composing an email. Again, the expectation is to make this much more simple to the user from at the very first level. Once the composition is complete, it's provided back to the user. The user feels satisfied with the collateral that's been created. It's being shipped out. Another such example is on the automotive side. This is something I personally like. The only reason being is I happen to have a 15, 20-year-old car. And quite often I see challenges in terms of breakdown. And now breakdown usually comes up with a lot of blinking lights at the dashboard. And for me, it becomes extremely difficult to really understand what is the issue, because I need to identify the shape of the light, the amplitude of the light, the color of the light, and then open up my 200 or 300 page manual and then try to understand exactly what the issue is. But if I happen to have, a natural assistant or a digital assistant in an auto environment, which understands the environmental conditions, understands the context, and then provides me guidance that the issue is related to A, B, and C, and the way you could address it by doing X, Y, and Z things. That is much more easier, improves user experience, and this is purely based off a voice command and based off a foundational model which is fine-tuned to that specific car manual, can help a user. And we could do the same thing and expand that also to improve drive policy and look at navigation guidance. Now, that being said, using multiple such input prompts, either be text or voice, you could expand the definition of it to other form factors like code creation for enterprise devices, especially in the PC-based form factors. You could look at music creation, especially for content creators, for high-end desktops as an example. But the issue has always been is with these generative AI trends, you also happen to have a lot of challenges that kind of come along with it. These challenges can be kind of bracketed into three main buckets: hardware, software, and algorithm. From a hardware perspective, the most important element is do you happen to have sufficient compute to be in a position to satisfy these large models? Some of these language vision models, like Runway ML, Stability.ai, which looks at the textual input or voice input and then creates images or videos, is heavy in compute. So it's important that you happen to have the infrastructure to be able to entertain these workloads. And then if you look at large language models or LLMs, they're quite bandwidth and memory intensive. So again, the expectation is these foundational investments exist on the edge devices to even have a decent performance from an LLM standpoint. So once you get it completed, the next question becomes in terms of software. Software becomes extremely critical because you need to deliver better quality of service. Better quality of service really needs to make sure that we eke out the highest amount of performance which includes, a complete investment in the stack from all the way from your runtime to compilers and libraries, with the anticipation that you have pretty good memory management to extract these models from flash into RAM into ROM, and then get it fully functional. And last but not the least, and I think the most important thing is from an algorithm perspective. The algorithm perspective is critical is because you have to put a lot more infrastructural knowledge here into eliminate hallucinations, bias, regulatory compliance, depending upon where you're deploying it. There are going to be instances wherein you have to map it on to vector databases, have it filtered through retrieval augmentation to make sure that you have a precise input prompt that goes into these large models to get you an output that maps onto the user. Again, several such challenges. Not everything is completely solved. The expectation is with time, we'll be able to get resolution to most of them. Now, on a Qualcomm perspective, we have been investing in our Hexagon processor for quite some time. The Hexagon processor is a dedicated AI engine that has investments in multiple cores. We have our tensor cores, scalar cores, and vector cores. If you look at any kind of generative AI models, to a large extent, as I mentioned before, either it's compute intensive or bandwidth intensive, or a combination of them mapped onto memory. So it's important that we're able to break these workloads into simple functions, and you happen to have accelerating units that's available with the tightly coupled memory, so that the physical power consumption that it takes to consume these models is as less as possible. And we've been able to accomplish that for quite some time. Now, this is something that we have taken on our latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 platform, wherein using a GAN network, we're actually creating deepfakes. So what you see here is a 256 by 256 thumbnail. We're creating approximately, give or take, 75 such images. And our intention is how fast these thumbnails can be generated. So we run this algorithm which is based on generative networks on a Hexagon processor, a commonly available discrete graphics, and an CPU-based platform. In this case, it's an x86 platform. And you can see that, given that we've optimized the complete software and the architecture is fine-tuned for generative networks, the speed of operation is extremely quick. Our expectation is if we're able to get it done, most of these complex workloads will have pretty good latency that maps on to the key experience indicators that most of the applications are asking for. So, and the added advantage on top of the latency is the amount of power consumption, especially if it's a sustained use case. You're able to get that at approximately 1/3 the power in comparison to general purpose machines like CPU and graphics. Now, moving forward, drive for personalization. How is Qualcomm envisioning this? Now, this is also critical as we move forward. Is again, relating from a personal experience of mine, you've seen many users getting familiar and then using a chat GPT. And I personally envision this as, when I try to look at creating specific context for an input prompt, the information that is extracted either for a prompt that, I ask or my 6 or 8-year-old a daughter asks is exactly the same thing. So which means that these applications, which are based off large language models, does not understand the contextual information, does not have the emotional intelligence of the user, but just purely takes input prompt and then computes an output context. Now, if there's a way to actually fine-tune the input prompt based on the emotional intelligence of the user, you're able to connect to the user much more. Such personalization becomes extremely critical. Now, for us at Qualcomm, we have been investing in contextual personalization for quite some time because we have access to plenty of IPs, especially what we call as always sensing IPs like camera, sensing devices, low power AI subsystem, wherein the expectation is we're able to collect data about the user And at that base of that information that's resident within the user, if you're able to fine tune that input prompt, it makes that information that's available back to the user much more cleaner. Now, this is something that is in research phase. We totally anticipate to commercialize it quite soon. But this foundational investment from an infrastructure standpoint was extremely critical, because for us, it gave us the much needed element to fine tune the prompt based on the information that is available or made resident in the sensing hub that is collected with time. Now, one such example of contextual personalization that we've been trying to work at this point of time is how can I take that, because I have access to calendar summary or schedule or activities, can I use that piece of information and then lead to much better content creation, either be linguistics, commerce, text, or recommendations that's available to be much more fine-tuned. Now, moving forward, the need for hybrid AI. As I mentioned before, from a Qualcomm perspective, we're putting a lot more investments on driving inferencing on the edge. But there's always going to be situations wherein edge does not have the necessary compute investments to really satisfy those use cases. In this case, we go for hybrid, wherein we can actually scale with bigger models. But what's the definition of a hybrid architecture? The definition of hybrid, the way we have structured it at this point of time, is your physical device or edge-based device acts as an arbitrator platform, and depending upon the input prompt made available from the user, we make a decision at that point of time to understand, does that prompt has to be shifted to the cloud, or does it have to be running on the edge? Now, this is purely an arbitrator or rules-based operation. We expect with time we'll continue to make changes, and as such, this foundational infrastructure, what we call as the middleware stack, is made complex enough that it can make decisions on the fly. Now, for the user, it's going to be seamless. The user does not really know that if this ask is actually running on the cloud or the edge. But the expectation is any sensitive information associated with the user is still resident within the edge. Again, this is something that is currently in research phase. We totally anticipate that we'll also be commercializing it, but at least providing the infrastructure, how we're kind of expanding from edge all the way to cloud. Another such example wherein we're trying to expand the definition of hybrid is joint processing. Now, this is extremely critical as you move towards larger models. Larger models in this context could be 13 billion parameters or even 33 billion parameters. These models cannot be run on the edge, only because it has a very strong challenge with the DRAM footprint. For example, a 7 billion model requires give or take about 13 gig of DRAM memory if it's a float 16 model, and it kind of scales up if it's a 13 billion model. So in this case, what we try to do is we have a smaller student model, which you call as a draft model, and then you have the teacher model, which is a much bigger model. The draft model is able to make a prediction and gives a small number of tokens, what we call as speculative decoding. That piece of information is fed to the much bigger model that is the teacher resident on the cloud. Based off the directional guidance provided by the draft model, it makes a dedicated investment and then expands the number of tokens. And now these tokens are averaged out, and as such, you provide a much better response to the user. So again, it's a kind of a combination of what we call as a hybrid, but in this case, both the edge and the cloud is making decisions at the same time, and then combine the decisions to be in a position to generate better quality of service or better token rate. Now, that being said, we talked about how we are pushing towards generative AI on the edge, how are we scaling from the edge towards the cloud using hybrid AI. And the next most important element becomes is what is the software stack to really enable this kind of inferencing on the edge. So we launched Qualcomm AI Stack, give or take approximately 12 months ago, wherein we had provided exposure to all our developers, including the first-party vendors, on a platform infrastructure wherein we allow first party and third party to bring in any networks from any framework. This could be TensorFlow, PyTorch, Onyx as such. And then we convert them into an intermediate representation or IR layer, which can be completely consumed by our Qualcomm stack, what we call as Qualcomm AI Engine Direct. And once it's available, this binary blob can be totally accelerated on our downstream engines, depending upon whether you want to accelerate it on an AI hexagon engine or you want to be running it on general purpose machines like CPU and graphics. The entire stack is fully accessible. It's totally open to the public, and you can bring in your own libraries for accelerations. And we have dedicated investments in terms of programming languages, including core functionalities, to really position and push for generative AI. And this can be completely expanded on Android OS, Windows OS, Linux, even on QNX platform for auto devices. Now, one of the biggest advantage as part of our Qualcomm AI stack is it provides you the flexibility of developing once, and you can port this to any form factor of choice. So what I mean by saying that is if you happen to have a Gen AI application that you have dedicated and done it for a mobile device, that same application can be completely run on an IoT platform or a VR platform or even a PC platform with absolutely no code changes. This actually provides multi-platform, multi-OS scalability that actually developers love. With that being said, finally coming to the end of my talk, from a conclusion standpoint, first thing, as I mentioned before, cloud economics is going to make it extremely difficult for Gen AI applications to scale. We at Qualcomm totally believe that we need to transition towards edge-based deployment of Gen AI to really make sure that we could drive scale and you can satisfy the most common of use cases that can be completely established using the investments on the edge. Now, second important thing is inferencing on the edge definitely provides a flexibility in terms of user privacy, and also provides customization at minimal to no cost to the consumer. And as such, you can enjoy unlimited amount of content creation or content consumption use cases that is extremely challenging or difficult, by running it on the cloud. Next thing is, how do we really drive towards personalization? Personalization becomes extremely difficult because you need to have some level of data about the user, and using semi-supervised or supervised learning, can you customize the input prompt in a way that is much more meaningful to the user. We are in an early stage of research, and we totally anticipate moving forward, we'll be in a position to get it done in a much more meaningful manner. And last but not the least is edge-based inferencing is great, but it does not satisfy all the use cases because it's always going to be a need for investment in larger models. And for this, we support hybrid AI, wherein based on distributed processing between the edge and the cloud, we totally believe that this can be completely accomplished. Again, this is in our research phase. We're working with a lot of enterprise vendors, and we totally anticipate once the orchestration is much more cleaner and defined, this would be the next evolution of how things would work moving forward. That being said, this is my last slide. Thank you for the talk and for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Vinesh Sukumar, for giving us all the insights on the generative AI at the edge. I believe the memento will be sent to him, so we'll not be doing a memento since it's remote anyway. We're moving on to panel discussion for the silicon design flow in the era of AI/ML, led by Mr. Venkata Simhadri. I request the panelists to be ready. Dr. Shivanand Koteshwar, VP and EDA, Group Site Lead, Synopsys. Mr. Surya Pekke, Vice President of Engineering, Network and AI Edge Group at Intel. Mr. Sumit Goswami, Senior Director of Engineering, Qualcomm. Dr. Ganesh Devraj, Founder and Executive Chairman of Soliton. Mr. Vinayakam Subramaniam, Director in Application Engineering of ANSYS. With that, may I request Mr. Venkata Simhadri to lead the panel discussion on silicon design flow in the era of AI and ML.
Exhale.
Hello, can you hear me? Come on, guys. Yes. can sit, pick your seat. So good, I think it's good afternoon, everyone. This is kind of a favorite subject, something that's close to my heart. So as I mentioned earlier, the last couple of decades, the AI is getting more practical and there are more applications coming up, mainly because of the advances made in semiconductors and silicon. See, because all these complex algorithms we need to be run, we need powerful SOCs, again, specifically targeted to run these algorithms. So I think definitely the chips are getting bigger and bigger. Currently, companies like NVIDIA's and AMD's, they are building these chips in 3 nanometer almost, or including 5 nanometer. So and they're so huge, these chips, and they have so much computing power, and that is the thing that's really happening. These AI applications possible. So today we have an interesting group of people here. These are the guys who actually make the EDA tools that are used for designing these chips. At the same time, we have some very powerful users of these tools from Intel and Qualcomm, who push the limits of these tools to design the most complex SOCs and ASICs that are targeted for running these AI applications. So we will hear their views and perspective from both the sides. Typically, the designers keep complaining that these tools are not fast enough, they have too many bugs, they're not efficient, and especially when we get very close to the tape out, we always keep blaming the tools for it. And the EDA vendors, especially from Synopsys, I think we have interesting people here, ANSYS, and they keep pushing the limits of the tools as well. They keep making them more and more efficient, and now they're saying that they're building more AI and machine learning capabilities inside the tools so that they're making them more efficient. So let's start with our designers from Qualcomm and Intel. So you've been, I'll first give that Sumit from Qualcomm. So you've been using these tools for the last, 15, 20 years? How long you been in the industry?
Yeah, so I've been in industry around 24 years, and so far I've been using this set of tools.
You're a lot older than what I thought.
I take it as a compliment, thank you. Yeah, but good start, Venkata. I think if you go back to the history, when we started designing our silicons, it used to be all transistor-based design, and a lot of hand drawing used to be there. We used to run simulations, be happy with that, and that's how we used to design high-performance chips. Now, when the digital chips started coming, design styles started growing. Some of the silicons today we are designing, which is having some 20-30 billion of transistors, the hand design is no longer possible, right? Now, over the period of time, there are multiple problems came in, like definitely power performance, thermal is one part, which all the silicon designers are dealing with day in, day out. But the productivity becoming a lot more important. How quickly I get my chip out. So that's where I think AI just started coming in, right? So just to make the tools a lot more productive, because when my design size was like few thousand of gates versus now few millions of gates, there is a heavy change on that. Now what's being done is that traditional EDA algorithms, if you see that, we are becoming a lot more dependent on the EDA algorithms, right? And traditionally, these algorithms are designed for regular CPU performance. So we always been working on the single-threaded performance of a CPU that kind of dictate a performance of a EDA tool. Now, it was not scalable. Now, going forward, then the EDA algorithm starting moving towards the multi-threaded or multi-core, but we all see that beyond a certain point, like 16-thread or 32-thread, it start tapering down and it become a flat. So where is the next leap if we really need to design? So I see that three main challenges. If you look at the EDA point of view, I would say there are three challenges. Number one is that the algorithms, what the sophisticated optimization algorithm, verification algorithms are there, how can there be more ML agnostic or AI agnostic? So that is the challenge number one. And I'm sure our fellow panelists are going to talk about it, that how they are doing it. Number two problem will be that the data. We all know that AI is very much data dependent, right? The algorithms are there, ML algorithms are there, but guess what? All our design companies, we are holding our design data. We are not leaving it to all the AI companies for consumption because of course, this is our IP, right? Definitely, we don't want to give the IP for that. So now how the EDA company train their models so that it become effective for us? It's a very complicated problem. It is not easily solvable because the legal guys also come into it, how you share data and all. Number three is that the AI silicon part of it. Morning in the opening pitch, Shashi was talking about that a small phone form factor design is running 12 billion parameter Llama model on this, right? So we are, and previous talk, you heard that we are creating our dedicated NPU. But today, our EDA algorithms are not taking advantage of some of the AI silicon we are designing. We are still traditionally running AI algorithms on CPU. Some of the tools we started moving towards GPU. But we are not taking the full advantage of the dedicated AI silicon what we are creating. So these are the kind of the three challenges I see. If you ask Venkata that are we looking forward to an AI-based chip design system, answer is absolutely yes. We would like to cut down the total turnaround time of a chip design with a lesser amount of resources because everything is becoming very expensive. With lesser resources, we want to do similar complexity design. And that's where we always closely work with all the EDA companies for their next leap.
Thank you, Sumit. Let's hear from our guy from Intel, Surya. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, and this topic is close to my heart because I spent a good chunk of my career in the design automation space. Right? So I've seen both sides, from a design automation side and then in my second phase, mostly on the design implementation side. So looking back, right, I mean, EDA certainly played a major role thus far in bringing the industry where we are, right? But certainly in last year or so, the game has changed significantly, right? In a way, I think we are going to be pretty much limited by our imagination about the possibilities looking forward. And I think Sumit highlighted, right? It's no longer just a simple EDA and the design team's partnerships. So going forward, right, given the advent of the generative AI and all of this, I think there are 4 or 5 major players that need to work together to evolve this ecosystem going forward, right? First, of course, I mean, data. Data is the oil of the industry, right? Without data, the industry is not going to run. So, and design houses like the Intels and the AMDs and the Qualcomms, who have been working on this for decades and decades, they are sitting on tons of data, and they need to enable the ecosystem with that data, right, to train the models and all that stuff. And second thing, we also need the EDA ecosystem, right, to fundamentally think how one tool fits all kind of a solution is not going to be scalable going forward, right? They really have to customize the tools with the data personalized for a given company. Right? I mean, they need to think of new work models, all of that stuff. The third big ecosystem is the CSP ecosystem. I mean, it's just not. So far, it was all EDAs and the design houses working in tandem, right? The design houses speccing it, EDA guys developing it, Now there are going to be multiple players in this ecosystem, and one of the big players is CSPs, right? I mean, the whole ecosystem of how, where these models are going to be hosted, how do we charge them, how do we enable data protection. For us to get that efficiency out of the future AI thing, I think CSPs are going to play a major role in our semiconductor ecosystem, right? And the last one is, there's also a huge opportunity for a lot of startups. Typically, the barrier of entry, sorry to say that, but the EDA ecosystem is a mafia, right? The cadences, synopses of the world and all that stuff. But going forward, one good thing is this whole advent of generative AI and all that stuff, it's going to open space for a lot more EDA startups, right? Where the barrier of entry is going to be lowered, right? You don't necessarily have to, we're not going to replace the fundamental tools, but there are going to be scope for a lot of new players building the models, right? Just work on the data that is coming out of these tools and build wrappers and ecosystem like that. So that's another big partner, right? So going forward, it's going to be, the game is slightly different. It's going to be a partnership between 4 or 5 big players, the design houses, the EDA vendors, to build those foundational things, the CSPs, and a bunch of new startups that we should see to enable and fuel this ecosystem.
Good. So the fundamental point you both made is the data, right? So I already see a challenge here. See, companies like Qualcomm, they are into wireless chips and networking type of chips, and probably Intel is making CPU type of chips. And again, this design database is your IP. You're not going to share with IP, tool vendors to train their, create models or train them, whatever it is. So how are we going to solve that problem? And also the models you may be created specific to a networking chip may not be applicable to a CPU type of a chip. So now let's hear from the EDA tool vendors here and our leading, tool vendor Synopsys. What are you guys doing in this area? And how are you addressing this problem?
So I think the end of the panel, I should want to make sure that I move from mafia to partnership, at least for the design houses. So I think this is a systematic problem which needs to be addressed at a completely system level, right? Synopsys had a competitive advantage because we had the full EDA stack. The moment you have full EDA stack, which has a comprehensive breadth from manufacturing to architecture to manufacturing, right? Whether from system to atoms, you have the entire EDA stack, which has, we in Synopsys, we use the word pervasive AI, which means we don't have an AI tool, but AI is embedded in every tool of Synopsys, right? So when you have AI-driven tools, when you have a razor-sharp focus on hyperconvergence, when you have the data continuum in your mind, how do we help work with our customers to boost the PPAS, right? Power, performance, area, and schedule. That's the only focus Synopsys has. How do we ensure our partners, our customers are able to tape out cutting-edge products with the focus with the PPAS, right? And we laid this foundation back in 2020 with the DSO.ai, right? We have more than 300 plus tape-outs right now. We have proven history of almost 25% power reduction and area reduction with this technology. And the journey started with optimization, right? It was 2020 when we started this, as I told you, right? The foundation for AI was set, and now the scale was important. So from optimization, we moved to analytics, like what he was talking about, the data analytics part of it. Data can be seen in 2 things, right? One, the data which the tool is generating based on the flows and based on the runs we are doing. That is in our control. And there is a second level of data, which is design data, right? The history of the company, which of course none of the design houses want to share unless, as he rightly said, can you do a customized tool or a customized flow for a particular customer? Then of course they will be open to sharing that, but it has to be on-premise. It cannot be a tool which is running on a Synopsys cloud or within. It has to be come out with an architecture where we're able to run it in the customer place. We don't extract any data out of it, but we make meaningful insights from the data of the customer itself, right? How do we do that? I think that's the journey we are taking. So the second step towards this journey was analytics, which is where you saw silicon.da or fab.da kind of tools, which is coming out, and solutions which is coming out from this. This is more around the data continuum. And of course, the third part of the journey is the assistive Gen AI, right? Which many companies call it different ways. We call it as a co-pilot, wherein think of it as another window which opens up with your tool, which will help you in this journey of taking it forward. We will have a big announcement coming very soon on this. And the final step of this journey is auto generation. When we talk about auto generation, it can be your RTL verification, environment generation, it can be your layout migrations, it can be around run set development, multiple things. This is where eventually the tool kind of becomes an auto EDA agent. So you have an EDA, and we have Gen AI kind of application, which is kind of an EDA agent, which sits with this. I think that's where the journey of AI is going, and that's how we are partnering with the customers. Mainly, when we run the tools with the designs, we have the content, we have the context, and we have the intent. Now, when you merge these three things, I think the EDA tools will go, will definitely take the journey from descriptive to prescriptive to predictive, right? That's how we want to go and ensure that the customers are successful in taping out cutting-edge designs. And from being a AI-driven stack, how do we move towards Gen AI-driven stack is the focus of the company. And I think it's a multi-year journey. It's not going to happen in one cycle. But we are following up with every partner for ours. Like he said, it's not one company working towards this. We need to completely depend on the ecosystem. There are a lot of startups which we're working with right now to ensure that we are able to customize our algorithms towards different applications and different companies. So I think that's the journey we are taking. It'll take some time, but I think the infrastructure, what we have built, is built for scale. So that's the biggest advantage I see we have.
Thank you, Shubho. That's a good explanation, good insight into what's happening there. Now let's listen to Vinayak. It's another interesting EDA company, one of the leading EDA companies. And Vinayak, maybe you can quickly talk about what are the most complex EDA tools you sell that help design the chips, and what exactly you're doing. If you're taking advantage of any of these AI, ML to improve the efficiency of those tools.
Sure. So the way I would answer that is, not taking names of the tools, but instead, let me sort of give a holistic picture of how, our development team is applying AI in order to do simulation, because our focus is on simulation. My sub-focus area is power integrity simulation, right, on the chip. So the way we look at applying AI for this engineering simulation, I would put it into three categories, right? The first one is top-down AI, which is very similar to design space optimization that Shivu talked about, where, let me give a technical example based on, my area, which is power integrity, right? When Sumit or Surya, their design teams develop power grids, they have specs saying, this metal layer should be this much pitch and spacing, and they have targets in mind, right? This much voltage drop or this much timing. So right now, simulation can only do so many variations of complexities or combinations of those parameters. So using AI, you can do more, right? That's a very simple, natural solution that comes with AI, and we call it as top-down AI. So that can be applied into any simulation tool, and you can use that to do a simulation-based optimization. Another interesting category, which is a little bit different, is bottom-up. Bottom-up requires a lot more research and innovation. And it speaks to something that Surya talked about, which is design data is very specific to each and every company, right? So we have to create a customized ML solver that works on the fly, on their design, while also delivering accuracy for that design, for that simulation. So that is what we call a bottom-up approach. The way we are applying that is actually for a thermal simulation. The reason we are applying for thermal is because 3D IC and AI is a mega trend. Chips are growing in size, like Sumit said. There are 3D stack structures. So power is causing thermal issues, thermal is causing back again power issues. So thermal solver, simulating a thermal for a big 3D stack die is a big capacity challenge. It's not something we can easily solve top-down, but a bottom-up approach works better. So that's the second kind of category. The third one is, of course, generative AI, right, using large language models. So that, the easiest application that everybody can think about is GPT, right? Take the language model, and we are providing ANSYS tool-specific information along with the GPT LLM so that it can provide and help customers ask natural language queries about the tool, about the simulation, so that it can help democratize simulation. So those are the three areas into which we are looking at.
Thank you, Vinayak. Now we have Ganesh. Of course, they're both named after the same god, but they're working for different companies. So Ganesh, you're working for Soliton Tech, right? Is it an EDA startup?
Yeah, no, I can introduce the company as well.
Yes, so please introduce about the company and tell us what is the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. So we are a 25-year-old Bangalore-based software company, and unlike the tool providers, we work in between the tool. We actually work on the whole workflow automation, streamlining and automating the entire workflow all the way from VLSI design to verification, validation, and then release to manufacturing. So we worked with these top companies who have global design teams, and they wanted standardization in order to ensure that there is a very streamlined and highly efficient workflow across their organization. We've been doing this for the last 17 years with very successful implementations across large global companies. But engineers always resist that call for standardization. They want the freedom, they want to be able to do things their own way. Whereas companies want standardization both for efficiency gains, and they want engineers to follow processes because that's their risk mitigation thing, right? So what we are seeing now is with generative AI, we can actually solve this age-old problem in a very novel way. We are able to now provide the tools in a manner where engineers are able to do use their full creativity, don't have to standardize to one standard. We are using generative AI to actually bridge that ability to automate between standards. That's one area. The other one is we are also able to use generative AI to prompt the users, the copilot idea that was provided, where they are able to go through in a more free way, and the generative AI is watching out to see whether they are missing critical steps, going through the checklist in the background and prompting them at the right time. So this actually, we think, is a revolutionary, stage in an engineer's life, where they are able to get that freedom that they've always wanted, and companies are able to get that both the efficiency and the de-risking that they've always wanted. So we think it's a pretty, important development that's going to happen in the future. We have a new tool that really revolutionizes the way, and what we've been fighting for so long, I think we are able to solve in a better way.
Ganesh, thank you for that insight. So as I understand, the company is more focused on the automation of things.
The automation, correct.
So you don't really make tools, EDA tools.
Yeah, we don't make the tools, but we are the bridge between the various tools.
So automation works with any particular tool flow, or you tool agnostic?
All tool agnostic, correct.
Thank you. So actually that leads me to the next question, right? There are two aspects here. Does this AI, ML or generative AI, whatever we're talking about, does it actually improve the tool performance itself, or actually it helps the automation of the tool? Maybe one of you can jump in and explain it.
point of view, see, I think Shivu touched upon a very interesting concept of design space optimization, right? So on a given chip, whenever we start, in a top-down approach-wise, how do we decide on the spec of a chip, right? We decide the PPAS, that's the only thing. I would rather say PPAT. We decide the thermal envelope, we decide the power performance and the cost point of view, we look at the area, right? But can I optimize it further better? Can I reduce the cost of the chip by another 25%? I need to probably sacrifice a bit on the schedule. I need to sacrifice maybe some other aspect, which is power, right? Today, we don't know. If I have some set of tools which look at the overall space and give me more Pareto optimal way of figure out, okay, if you take optimization space point A versus point B, if you go to point B and optimize your design on that point, you may reduce maybe the cost by another 20%, but guess what? Your power where you will be sacrificing 2%. Maybe that's a good trade-off. Today, in our tool space, we don't have a tool to do this sort of analysis. So AI have a big opportunity over there to figure out where do you want to target a particular chip, which area you want to target a particular chip, where this will be useful. Another is the verification, right? Today, not all the companies, if you look at it, not everybody is starting, I mean, whoever is creating multiple chips, they are creating from their company. It's not that every design, every IP are redesigned every time. It is an evolution of the previous generation IP. It is some feature change, performance change, all this kind of things are going on. There is a lot of learn from the same design which was targeted in 2-3 generations back. And that's where today that information is there. We know that our IESA industry, we are bad in documentation. It all lies in the engineer's brain, which is not getting passed on. So this is another area, right, where if you have some sort of knowledge management system and some sort of AI-based system using the leveraging both, this can really be effective for us. So answer is that yes, we are looking forward to it. This sort of tool space is very much required, it is not from performance of the tool, but if you look at the productivity and the way you want to make your product better. So that space, definitely we need tools like that.
Okay. So the statement you're making is it's not really affecting, improving the performance or the algorithms inside the tool, but it's more like efficiency and how to use the tool, how it is implemented, how it is.
Yeah.
Are there any other views on this? Anybody like to share some more views on this?
Yeah, my view is that, we want to attack all angles, right? Performance is one, automation / usability is another, right? We want to leverage AI for all of this. Performance, I can give one example. Traditionally, if you look at an electromagnetic simulation for a chip, we generally have to solve the entire Maxwell's equations, which is a very compute-intensive thing. So one of our R&D teams, they developed their deep learning-based random walk accelerated extraction specifically for conformal dielectrics, which are common on the chips, right? So that gave us significant speed up for parasitic capacitance extraction for electromagnetics, right? So that's an example of applying AI to develop solver acceleration, but very targeted to the application that you are looking at. So that's one example. From an automation point of view, I agree with what Sumit said. We need to see how we can leverage the data that we have. From a tool vendor point of view, we have training videos, PDFs, etc. We need to figure out how to feed that into GPT, create a generative AI that can hopefully answer questions a little bit more easily. Because our documentation, I'm pretty sure our documentation is hundreds of pages long with lots of APIs. So hopefully generative AI will help, provide the right set of options in terms of or configuration or settings to automate some of the flows.
I think one thing I want to add, right? So when we talk about optimization space or when we talk about productivity, the definitions are different for different people, right? It all depends on from which angle you're looking at and from which level you're looking at. So when most of the designers are moving towards angstroms and you have this multi-die integration happening, rapid node migrations we are seeing, we are seeing design houses literally running on multiple nodes today. Right? There's multiple designs running at multiple nodes. There are two things which everybody is working on, and Synopsys is partnering with design houses on these two main problem statements, as Sumit rightly said. How do we ensure that all the teams across the geographies of the design houses are operating at the same expertise level? I think that's the most important thing when Synopsys talks about productivity, right? You have designers in a different region who don't have the same knowledge as some of the design centers we have had for many, many years. How do you ensure all these designers come to the same expertise level, which means you are using the tool at its best? Because that's the most important thing, right? You need to ensure that whether you're a beginner or an expert user of the tool, how do we ensure that everybody comes to the same platform at an expert level? That's the first goal of GenAI in EDA. The second one is, how do we explore larger scale of choices in chip design workflow itself, like what he said, right? When we talk about optimization, how do we ensure that the designer makes an informed decision? How do we do the trade-off analysis better? I think that's the biggest challenge. So these are the two major problem statements we're working with. I think where GenAI will come in is the journey from data continuum will move towards knowledge continuum. Right? When we say knowledge includes documentations about the tools, about the flows, about the methodologies, about what is available on the internet, plus the knowledge which is native to the design houses also, if they are opening up. Today, when we talk about GenAI, we are actually partnering with design houses and telling, okay, this layer of information is going to remain in your company itself. So when a user of your company prompts and runs something, that will be very specific for your company. So most of the designers, I think, will move towards being a prompt engineer very soon. And how fast they make this transition, I think, will define this journey, and we'll see a huge productivity boost in that direction.
Thank you, Shibu. And Ganesh, you have anything to add?
Yeah. So, no, I think the point that was made just now about the fact that, first of all, the documentation is not good enough. And the second point on top of that is, sometimes there are engineers who take the effort to document well, but then the other people who need it at the required level don't access it. They don't even know that it's there. So actually today evening in my keynote, I think it's scheduled for 6, it looks like it's going to be more like 7 o'clock, where I'm actually showing a demo of how we are using generative AI to give that input to the engineer at the right time when they actually need it, even if they don't know that that documentation exists in the company, how to actually pull it up, and like you were mentioning, to bring that beginning user to a, not necessarily expert level, but a much better level in terms of, their ability to do these tasks. So yeah, I think it is definitely happening, and we are able to run pilots which are actually showing that this is possible.
Yeah, so just one comment, right? Talking about the documentation and lowering the barrier of entry and all that stuff, right? I think one idealistic scenario is, we don't want people to be experts in Tickle, we don't want people to be experts in Googling and all that stuff, right? I think English should be the future language to communicate with the tools, right? Just imagine a world where I can go to a PT session and say, hey, upsize my top 10 paths which have enough hold stack. The user should be able to type those English words in the PT prompt, and the tool should generate an ECO, right? Instead of figuring out the for loops and the if loops and dumping the Slack reports and all kinds of stuff, right? It's possible with the evolution of the generative AI. We can actually imagine those kind of things in future, right? That pretty much eliminates the entire documentation part, training people with command manuals and all kinds of stuff.
Thank you, Surya. So basically the summary is that we're definitely going to make the life of designers easier. Things are going to get more efficient. and we can design bigger chips with less people. That's the summary, right? Less engineers.
Not really. I think we'll make the life of the designer tougher by ensuring the mundane tasks are taken care of by the tools so that they have more time to push the PFAS. So I don't think we will ever reach a situation where the designer will have more time to
Oh, really?
do other
Okay.
things.
So actually, that brings to the next, interesting question I have here. How many chip design engineers here in the audience today? Raise your hands. I just want to get a feel for it. Okay, I think not that many. So basically, if you look at last 3 to 4 years, right? The semiconductor industry is getting a lot more attention than what it was getting earlier, right? Thanks to COVID, the shortage of chips, the shortage of cars, and also the industry itself in India especially, all the top tier 1 companies and startups, they started hiring more and more designers. There is a huge shortage of design engineers. So as a result, I think there are more and more people, younger people, getting into chip design nowadays. I also know it personally because we run a training institute. The demand for the people, people who wanted to join the training institute, we saw definitely an uptick. Now, with this new, things happening, the generative AI you're talking about, for example, in our training institute, we, have our engineers come and learn how to write a Verilog code. So do you think the nature of these jobs are going to change in the future? For example, in future, do you think we'll have something like RTL GPT or like Chat GPT or something? You go, give me a code for the next generation PCIe Gen 6 controller, and it will generate the whole code and give it to you. So this is going to be an interesting, era we are entering into. I want to, hear from you. Is it going to make the jobs, more redundant, or, I think fundamentally, is it going to eliminate some jobs?
Yeah, like what Jensen said recently, right? You're not going to lose your job to AI, but you're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's how the future is, right? Definitely. Industry has evolved over decades and decades, right? I think we're going to have more interesting jobs in future, right? I think the overall landscape is going to evolve with the kind of productivity that we expect from the AI, right? Jobs will be more interesting in future, in my view.
Anything else?
Yeah, so I think I would take what Shivu was saying, right? That a lot of mundane tasks will be gone. But does it mean that the number of chips I need today is going to be same like number of chips I need tomorrow? Answer is no. Because today, if you look at our industry, right, the overall semiconductor industry, the way expansion happening, we are not able to generate that many number of chips. And the reason is that we are no longer believing on a general purpose processor to do all the jobs. If you go back to the 20, 30 years back, we have a one CPU which is a mother of everything, does all sort of workload. Now look at today, I need a small CPU core. For doing camera processing, I don't want to rely on CPU, I need a dedicated ISP. For video encoder decoder, I need a third core. So it is exploding. And depending on the scope of the design, depending on the scope of the application space, I need to come up with something else. Recently, there was another discussion I was having. They need a very simplistic core, but at a factory environment at 85 degrees C ambient temperature, this need to run around 10 years, 24/7 without throttling. It is a complete different ballgame than what we are doing it. So the need is increasing. Now, what AI is making us efficient. It is not going to take away jobs, but certain set of jobs, yeah, it may not be required, but same set of engineers, like what Surya was saying, they will be trained to do something else. So it is not, I don't feel that AI is going to take away our job, but it is going to make us more efficient.
I still remember driving in US with the AAA maps, with trying to figure out where to go. And I was an expert in reading maps. And after Google Maps came, that skill was lost. But again, as Sumit said, I think there are many skills which is not needed for tomorrow, and we'll all upgrade ourselves. We'll cross-skill each other, we'll upskill, and we will be more efficient and productive in using these tools, as he was saying. I think we'll all be productive in using the AI tools. One of the biggest thing, what I have noticed is, non-traditional chip design companies are trying and telling us that the whole chip design is going to be automated and everything is going to be this one. But see, one thing we all have to remember, when we look at ChatGPT kind of applications, you can be 95% correct. It's perfectly fine with that 5% error. In our chip design world, 100% accuracy is what is required. When I ask something to the tool, you better give me the right answer. There is no way you can even have 1% error in the answers what the GPT or ChatGPT gives us. So I don't think we'll ever reach a situation where somebody is writing something and it gives a script or a code which is absolutely correct. There is a lot of knowledge democratization will happen. There's no two ways about it. But I don't think the process is going to become simpler at any point in time. There will be demand for more and more specific chips. We will see very, very interesting applications which will come out. And I think that's a fantastic future we are all geared up for. And these kind of automation, these kind of technologies will just accelerate the whole journey for us, is what I feel.
I want to just pick up on what Surya mentioned, that the language with which we interact with pretty much all tools will become English, or whatever native language people are most comfortable with. So today, engineers just learning a programming language come out and say they know how to do a job. I think that is going to change. Knowing a programming language is not going to be enough, because everybody will know how to talk in English, for example, right? So in that sense, the jobs are going to become more demanding, and at the same time, all the mundane tasks are going to get removed. So, in that sense, it'll be easier, but the jobs will be more interesting, for sure, and more demanding in that sense.
Okay. I like this Microsoft naming of Copilot, right? Yeah. So AI is like a virtual assistant or a Copilot, but the human is still the captain.
Thank you. Thank you. So all you chip designers, your jobs are secured. So you'll be fine. So next, we'll move to another interesting question. See, when I started my career, the first generation of EDA tools I was using, either it's a place and route tool or a layout editor, they were all run on Sun workstations. Sun was big thing at that time, right? And they had their own processor and I think it's called Spark processor or something. The whole EDA industry was run on Sun Solaris. But later on, the whole EDA tools moved to Linux and, mostly Intel-based CPUs or, AMD-based CPUs. But moving forward, Sumit was just telling that, hey, CPUs are not the way, and people are developing custom silicon to make certain functions more more efficient. So do you see any special purpose silicon targeted towards EDA type of applications? Is any efforts happening in that area? I think a couple of years ago, one of the panel discussions, I asked the same question. Is there anybody looking into that?
Yeah, I think the EDA guys can fill up more, but I see this is an opportunity, Venkata, because this is the area unexplored. If you look at the way traditional AI silicon came in, because a lot of other applications which talked about in the various keynote, like image, like automotive, ADAS, those are kind of driving to create, can I port my neural network onto a chip easily and get inference out of it? Now, if you look at the EDA algorithms, I think the first thing need to change is that can every algorithm become an AI algorithm? For example, I am running a placement optimization. Can optimization become an AI algorithm? The moment first software layer is going to change, that will dictate the need of a hardware on this. But I think this is an open area. I see that there is a lot of collaboration possible between startups, big so-called mafias and the academia, so that the data science, the basic data science and algorithm science, can they improve on taking advantage of this kind of hardware what we have. And I see this is another opportunity. This is maybe in future, quite possible. Maybe one day we'll see, may not be the end-to-end silicon design flows, but maybe certain set of tasks can take the advantage of this additional AI silicon, which may come as like a PCI Express card or something, goes into the cloud, and the job getting submitted to that. Why I am hopeful? Few years back also, all the EDA tools used to run on CPU.
Correct.
But nowadays it runs on GPU also. So there is an opportunity, definitely.
Yeah. So just to add, right, I think it took several years for EDA companies to catch up with the multi-threading and the distributed processing and things like that, right? Once they made that thing, I think it was very easy for these guys to scale into the cloud. I think at least a couple of years back, most of the EDA vendors were able to move into the cloud, enable EDA running on the cloud and things like that. So the next natural step is to see how they can leverage the overall XPU. It's not that you replace CPU with a GPU or anything, right? I mean, you have several PUs on that die in the system.
Correct.
And you have to see how you can put the workload on the right processing unit. It could be CPU for certain workloads, it could be GPU for certain workloads, it could be VPU or NPU, right? I think there's a huge scope for the EDA ecosystem to partner with the academia, right, to figure out how to land workloads on the right PU.
Yeah, I think rightly said. I was working for MediaTek earlier, and that was exactly the same problem we started having when we looked at the cell phones, right? When you look at the smartphones, the biggest challenge was the workload planning itself. Which kind of job should go to what kind of PUs, right? Whether it's a CPU or whether it's a GPU or whether it's an NPU. And I think it evolved because of the requirements the smartphone industry had. We are working right now with multiple universities in that area. One of the biggest challenges we are seeing is the EDA algorithms itself is not a part of many of the curriculums, for example, right? So I personally am working with multiple colleges right now, both in India as well as outside, to ensure that the focus on algorithm development doesn't go away from the universities. Because as Sumit was saying, if you do not have that kind of research oriented approach for some of these applications, then it will be more of a ask and do kind of a model rather than a research-oriented approach. We have not yet hit the boundaries of what we can achieve with the existing algorithms. That might be one of the reasons why that push is not yet there. We still have more space to cover with the existing approaches we already have. But I definitely, as a company, we don't want to do the same mistake we did earlier in terms of multi-threading or multi-CPU and other things. Because I think, yes, you rightly said, the jump towards that was much later because there was a need in the market. When we already know where the market is going, I think we should partner. And as Sumit was saying, it's a wonderful opportunity for startups to explore that space, actually work with us and take it forward from there.
Yeah, I would like to add to what Shivu and Surya said. So traditionally, EDA has been monolithic, right? Built on Linux, like you said. And we have scaled to multi-threading, we have scaled to distributed, we have gone one more level beyond, which is elastic, right? Elastic compute, where we can scale to thousands of CPUs and also scale down as needed, right? So we have reached that level. Sumit brought up a point about GPUs, right? So ANSYS does have simulation products that are accelerated by GPU. The way we look at it is, I'll give you an example. We have an electric motor simulation that does calculates electric fields. So there is a numerical factorization that we need to do as part of that simulation. The research team found that that actually works faster on GPUs than on CPUs, right? So we have to figure out workloads, right? That works better on GPUs. So that's how we implemented it. We partnered with NVIDIA GPU. We partnered with AMD GPU to implement that. Similarly, like what Sumit said, for AI also, we need to see what are the hardware partners, what workloads or algorithms work well, that defines how we develop and implement it.
Want to add anything? Or?
So I think the one more aspect, as more chips are getting created, more specialized chips for things like VLSI design or simulation, there's also this huge number of unused chips that are going to be all over the place. Now AI could also be something that is used to actually start leveraging all of that is sitting pretty much idle all the way down to individual workstations. But of course, we'll have to be worried about energy usage, because we are getting to a point where energy consumption by any chip that is running anything is becoming quite significant. But just a thought that came, that on one side that efficiency gains are coming, on the other side a lot of unused chips are going to be there, and what do you do with that? That is another possibility as well.
So I like to thank you very much. I like to conclude with one statement. If there is one workload, I want to put it on a special purpose processor, that is DRC. I hope everybody here agrees to that. We all work for a year, 2 years, and ready to tape out the chip, and everybody, the final step is running the DRC, and everybody sitting, looking at the computer. And this is, it's a very complex algorithms, DRC, and so that is one area. I think people, if they can come up with some special processor to run that workload and improve the speeds, that would be very helpful. I hope all the chip designers here agree to that. With that, we don't have time for any questions here. People can come and interact with our esteemed panel members and talk to them in the lunchtime. Once again, thank you all for taking the time and attending this wonderful session, hearing to some of our people. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Mr. Kaushik Raghavan, Director for AI and ML at Micron Technologies, to felicitate the panelists. Give the plaques. May I get the plaques, please? I'd like to request Mr. Venkat Simhadri Garu to felicitate Dr. Shivanand Koteshwar. I request Venkata Garu to felicitate Mr. Surya Prake. I'll be felicitating next Dr. Ganesh Devraj, Founder and Executive Chairman of Salton. Request Venkataji to felicitate Vinayaka Subramaniam, Director of Application Engineering ANSYS. Now can I have Mr. Kaushik Raghavan please come and felicitate Mr. Venkata Simhadri. You can keep two, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kaushik Raghavan. I think we still have a keynote. Sorry to keep you waiting between your lunch, but this will be one keynote and we'll move the next one post-lunch. So we have next keynote addressed by Mr. Swami Ranki and Sandesh Gowda from MOSCHIP. We'll now have Mr. Swami come on stage and with Sandesh Gowda. Mr. Swami is a sales, marketing and BD executive with over 25 years of diversified experience in semiconductor startups and public companies with demonstrated leadership in developing strategy, go-to-market plans, product positioning, demand generation, business development and sales. Mr. Swami is responsible for Moschip's global strategy for revenue growth in semiconductor embedded systems, worldwide business development, and sales for IP turnkey ASICs and design services. Mr. Sandesh is Associate Vice President of Product Engineering Services at Moschip and responsible for embedded platform, pre- and post-silicon validation, RTOS, AI/ML domain projects, platform design services involving consumer electronics, automotive, medical, and industrial embedded products. Mr. Sandesh has over 20 years of experience in overall product development, system design, application engineering, QA and technical support activities with an emphasis on SoC and software-based products. May I request Mr. Sandesh and Mr. Swami to please come on the stage and continue with your keynote. Mr. Swami will be dialing from US. Is the team ready with the team's remote dial-in? No, it's only a video. Okay, we'll have a video session with Mr. Swami. May I request Mr. Sandesh to please come on the stage?
In-person event. And also wish them all the best for many such summits coming up in the future. Let me bring up my presentation and introduce the topic. Today, myself and my colleague Sandesh are presenting how Edge AI is enabling next generation embedded applications. AI at the edge is enabling emerging applications in various industries. For example, consumer, manufacturing, automotive, telecom, energy, etc. The global edge AI market is already a 15 billion market in 2022 and growing at a CAGR of 20% in the next 7 years. The growing use of AI applications such as smart AI vision, smart energy, AI healthcare, smart factory, and intelligent systems, transportation systems is attributing to this tremendous growth for the Edge AI applications. Of course, what is it for semiconductors companies? The reason in order for Edge AI, you need a real-time data processing right on the edge, extremely high performance. Also, the data required to be stored on the device itself or nearby server due to requirement of very low latency. And there are many concerns about privacy and how to protect the security, all those angles. So these are the essentials in order for AI to proliferate in the edge applications. And this presents a tremendous opportunity for semiconductor companies, both for hardware and software. For example, there are many startups actually funded by venture capitals are developing domain-specific neural network processors for a given vertical. So when it comes to applications, if you see in healthcare, this Edge AI is enabling diagnosis, personalized treatment, robotic surgeries. In automotive, there are applications coming up in ADAS, lane detection, autonomous driving, smart parking. In security, the application coming up in surveillance, face detection, and cyber security. In manufacturing, the application coming up in predictive analytics, safety, and workflow automation. Now, what exactly Moschip brings to the table? Moschip has has expertise in all these areas. Specifically, for example, in computer vision area, we have done machine and computer vision algorithms. For cognitive computing area, we have done natural language processing. For machine learning lifecycle management, we have done model designing, optimization, testing, and porting. For FPGA acceleration solutions, we have done scene detection, text analytics, audio analytics, key phrase detection, etc. Basically, our expertise covers end-to-end solution development for AI ML application and also hardware reference design and proof of concept development for our customers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly excited to be here today at this AI Summit to introduce intelligence. Intelligence with an AI within itself. What is intelligence? Moship, a company known for pursuing boundless innovation, has been working tirelessly to develop many next-gen applications for our customers by leveraging various edge AI neural network platforms available in the market. Intelligence is our AI ML capabilities under one umbrella. Intelligence is the AI ML capabilities of Moship. Rather than keep you waiting, I will now hand over the stage to my colleague Sandesh, our AVP of Embedded Engineering, who will dwell into technical and demonstrate intelligence. Prepare to be amazed as we have many interesting demos at our booth, number 5. Please stop by when you have some time. Sandesh, the stage is all yours. Thank you.
Okay, I thank Swami for giving a complete introduction about intelligence module and introducing to the word, and a few of the modules whatever we developed on the edge-based platform, we will have a demo. Yeah, this is regarding the AI in embedded computing, where we mainly work on edge-based development, on the AI edge-based, on the embedded platform. You know that, edge-based is like where the interface between them and the external to the processing is very near and it's very fast, and where we have to process it, analyze it, and storing the data into the edge-based platform only. And it's generated to enable rapid and real-time analysis, and the response should be fast. And there are a lot of advantages we are seeing on edge-based when compared to the cloud-based. The latency will be very less, and the response is very fast and high security, and less risk will be there. And lesser transmission cost is involved, and there is no network reliability on it. So generally, when you are developing a edge-based AI embedded applications, generally what we'll do, we'll come up with a problem statement, we'll analyze the problem, and we'll prepare the data set for the use case. I mean, what is the application required? And that's a use case data set preparation is a pretty tedious task where we have to do it manually and use some separate tools for it. And once the data set is prepared, we need to integrate it, put it into the deep learning architecture by using a lot of open source tools and come up with the model. And once we get the model, and we have to train it and validate it to make sure that the particular application or the requirement is matching. Once everything is working, then we deploy it into the target board where the AML based, the platforms are there. And then we'll start capturing the data, and we'll check it out with the model, and then we'll compare the data, and it's like the AI model is going to working or not, we'll check it out. So then this is how we'll check it out, and we'll compare the result and output. Generally, what we do is when you are taking the edge-based thing, we'll check it out the general hardwares which are already available in the market, like with the AI accelerators like a brain chip, Akida, Renesas, which have their DRPI, and NVIDIA, Lattice, and Google TPU or NXP-based hardwares, which have their own AI accelerators will be there. So generally, what we did is from the MOS chip is like we developed multiple applications, and we prepared the data set, and we put it into the open source, the deep learning or ML architecture algorithms, and generate the data set, and we put it into the different hardwares, and we verified it. So from the MOS chip side, we are doing end-to-end machine learning or a deep learning based application, and we verified it. And this is like a edge inference, and generally when you are checking for the AI based devices, we check it out. The main things are, one is the power and inference time of the response whenever the image is generating, and the performance we are going to check it out. Yeah, here a couple of applications what we developed from in our MOS chip AML platforms are, one is patient care, patient monitoring or a patient care thing, where generally what we did is like we took AI-based platforms which come up with the embedded operating system, which is all the interfaces like a camera, accelerator driver, firmware, BSP and everything. On top of that one, we identified the use case, and we created the data set, and then we created the model and we embedded into the target board. And here we identified the, with respect to the patient monitoring, we consider the 17 body key points to identify the actions, like abnormal activity of a patient when he is moving or something like that. So here what we'll do is like we'll check it out the actions like a falling, coughing, eating and a vomiting, and we verified it, and the inference time is around 50 milliseconds, and FPS is like a 10 FPS we are getting, and accuracy we are getting around 90%. In the similar way, it's like one more use case like a facial recognition and facial emotion recognition, where you will see, which we verified and bring up, developed application on the brain chip platform. Here we captured and verified 5 expressions, and here also inference is around 50 milliseconds, and FPS is 10 FPS. And we checked out the power usability for the, how much power is consuming, with respect to the identification of that one. So here, one other than facial recognition and patient recognition, we did the OCR model, where we'll develop the, OCR, image capture model, and identify the raw data of an image and convert into a digital format by using a deep learning model, where we identify the text area and clear all the noise surrounding that one, and convert that into a digital data and store it into the target and the display. So this one we use during Tesseract or a OCR model, and it works around a 60% accuracy. It's in the still progress. Okay, and with respect to automotive domain, we developed a ADAS braking alert system with a distance measurement, where here also it's like a couple of use cases we took it to, with respect to the ADAS features like distance measurement, identification of the object which is coming in front of the vehicle, and it will intimate to the driver. Here also we use a lot of algorithms, open source algorithms like YOLO version 3 and version 5, and trained them and validated it, and we integrated into the target AML board. So, and with respect to the safety measurement, we developed a PPE kit detection where we can use this for a construction domain or if any of the working place, where it will identify like a head, helmet, vest, and a person. And here also it's like we developed the data model and application to identify the PPE kit. In the similar way, on the FPGA platform also we developed human coding solution, along with that one gesture recognition on different using a different neural network models. Okay, these are all the applications. Yeah, we developed it, and from the Moschip side, we have a very good expertise on framework development, algorithm development, and what are the open source algorithms are there for the different platforms. We modified it and tweaked the algorithms as per the use case requirement. And if there is any BSP or the OS changes also, we have very good experience on the lower level OS experience. Okay, these are the things, majorly we are working in the Moschip with respect to AML domain.
That was pretty interesting demo. I'd now like to request Mr. Srinivasa K, CEO of Moschip, MD and CEO of Moschip, to felicitate Mr. Sandesh Gowda, AVP of Moschip. May I request Mr. Srinivasa K? Please come. Thank you. Now we move on to the lunch session, and I request all the delegates to please be back and assemble at 2:20. We will be starting it sharp at 2:20. And also note that we will be moving out a banquet dinner from 7 p.m. It will be slightly delayed. So do please stay back for both of the banquet dinner and the lunch. I hope to see the same numbers continued post-lunch session as well. Please assemble back sharp at 2:20. Thank you.